Yo, what's goody? Welcome back to another episode of Roti And Poutine. I am the MC Armanni Reign. I am here once again with the Valiant Emcee, Mr. Historian himself, the T.R.A.C. And we are standing with a very special guest live all the way. It's actually recording. I don't know why I said live, but we are recording live from a homie from a long time. One of the most respected MCs in our culture, in my opinion, the lyrically gifted, former member of Foreign Beggars, the man who is just absolutely crushing every
Highly energetic.
man. So many things. If I went down the
Thanks,
list
bro.
of tunes that I love, we wouldn't have time for a podcast. So let's just get right into it and give a round of applause for the one, the only Pavan. How are you, my friend?
Wicked, bro. Good, man. That was a mad intro, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? But thank you, bro.
We're gonna let TRAC do it, but
The respect is mutual for everybody in the room as well, man.
Oh,
Good,
man.
man. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
cool, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here, dude.
Well, 8 hour time difference, so I'm glad that you
Yeah.
find a way.
Come on, bro.
How are you,
This
man?
is as close to a rave as I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How have you been? How's everything so far? How's your COVID been? It's a horrible question to ask, but I mean,
Yeah, it's all right, man. I mean, I'm grateful that Dubai is it's a pretty decent place to be in. I think they locked it down super early and kind of everybody just, it's a place where you can't really fuck around. There's no protests here. There's none of that. You know, you just do what they say, get on with your shit, and everything's all right. So they locked it down pretty hard in the beginning. And just before they locked it down, I moved to India to get my new project popping. But I kind of foresaw things going a little crazy over there. So I just came back home, and I'm just grateful to be in a situation where I'm with my family, you know, like,
Hell yeah.
you know, with the family. I've got my studio in the house. I've got my paints. I can paint, do studio. I've got friends here. I've got internet, can do whatever I need to do. So in terms of like, it could be a lot worse. So I think that gratitude is what has kept me, you know, positive, and being able to just keep on doing whatever I can do has kind of got me through it. Getting a bit antsy, I'm not gonna lie. I want to see my friends and go to a party, but you know, it's all good. You just, I don't dwell on things. So, you know, just keep it moving. How about you guys?
we're doing all right, man. We've been doing this podcast for a year now, which is fucking crazy. I can't believe it.
I think this is the thing that's keeping us sane.
Yeah, true that. But we've gathered some sense of community here. It's been all right, man. We're all working on projects the same. All luckily have studios in our house, so we are doing things. There's a bunch of stuff coming out, and everybody's hustling, man. Trying to keep a positive. Where it's the exact opposite of what you said. There's nothing but protests and fucking
Yeah.
But you know, it is what it is. We're making the best of it, man.
Yeah, man.
It is what it is. I see you here, not dressed in blue, but I have to ask you, and I'm sure people ask you all the time, but this is probably one of the most important questions I'm going to ask before this show is over.
Sure.
What is your favorite food?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like if you knew that you were gonna die tomorrow, if you knew the world was coming to an end, what would you want your last meal to be?
Somebody asked me this the other day, but I said something. I don't think I should say it right now.
What a
Noted.
But you know what's really, I'll tell you what else is really funny. Like, I saw this meme the other day of this like super satanic guy, full face tats and everything. And for his last meal, he asked for a Bible, and he sat there and ate the whole Bible for his last meal. Yeah.
Unnecessary.
It's probably the most metal thing I've ever heard. But
I would definitely rather have lasagna, but you know, that's just me.
Yeah.
You know, if you do it right with the sauce.
I probably have probably Lebanese food, man. Come on, let's just be real. Lebanese food.
Lebanese. You know, my wife is constantly telling me the superiority of Lebanese food when it comes to the Mediterranean region. And I haven't had a whole lot of like specifically Lebanese, so I gotta change that.
What would be your go-to if I was to have that? I'm gonna go get some tonight.
Oh, really? Tonight?
Anything.
Okay, so get
There you go.
some kofta if you eat meat. Get some kofta. It's the lamb kebabs. right? Get some tabbouleh. Actually, you know what? Get arais, because that's like, it's bread with the lamb kebab baked in it. So it's baked in the oven. So the bread gets baked onto the meat. Get some hummus, get some extra tahina, get some muhammara. That's like walnut and feta cheese and garlic and olive oil. Bro, just order the whole menu, bro. Come on.
Yeah, just get. All right, well.
Just get one of each, bro.
Come
Nah,
on.
we eating Lebanese tonight. All right, cool. So
Atlanta's got to have some, man. You gotta.
I don't
You guys got everything down there. I feel like.
Atlanta's like the new home for food
It's
almost.
I
grown.
know.
But before we get into,
Get a little closer real quick, Monty. Just a little closer to the mic, please.
No, I'll pull the mic towards me. Pause.
Yeah. Why is there a pause for the mic?
Just relax. Don't worry about it. Let the joke.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, what did I have? I don't remember my food of the week. I had some. We had some really good sushi the other day. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was just can't do favorite food every week, Pav. So you have to go with the food of the week. What about Travis?
Right.
Yeah, just gotta keep it fluid.
I don't even know, man. I think I just had sort of a potluck situation.
Cool.
You know, nothing super crazy. Just some potluck. We little bit of public wings. We had a few. You know, we just anything actually. I'll say that we ate anything.
All right, man. Way to narrow that down for the crowd.
That was terrible. Although, see, the flip side of that though is he says we ate anything, and then I'll come out with some boring ass shit. So it's all right.
A bag of chips.
No, we had fun. It was all right. It was not great. I know. Honestly, though, man, look, small town pho is not necessarily going to be a great time. So.
All right, you gotta find a better spot, man. You can't have mediocre.
Dude, my town, my town has a water tower. That's how small it is. You know what I mean?
What town are you in? I think you're in Toronto.
Well, I'm outside Toronto by about an hour and a half. And so I'm like in rural Canada. And so this town that I'm in is like.
Are you north?
South.
Okay.
South.
What's it called?
It's called Port Dover.
Okay.
And it's like directly across from Lake Erie from Erie, Pennsylvania. So
I swear I've been to Port Dover, bro.
Maybe. If you were in Canada, maybe.
Yeah,
it's a beach. It's
best party ever.
It's a beach town. So
yeah, I think I came there for lunch one time because I remember there's like a really good like harbor seafood spot, and it's kind of on a river.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping, but maybe I'm dreaming. I don't know. Maybe I saw it on Netflix, but I feel like I was there.
Definitely
I feel like I was there.
I don't know if it's my real life or if it's Netflix. That's actually not a bad thing. I mean, if you can't tell the difference between Netflix and your real life.
Your life's mad life, bro. We've all had a pretty mad life. Come on, let's not deny it, man. Like we're lucky to have this fucking mad ass life that we have. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
understatement, sir.
It's grind. It's grind, and not everybody can deal with the shit that we have to go through. But if you love it that much, then all of that grind work is light work. And if all of that grind shit is light work, then this is amazing, bro. Do you know what I mean? Because even the low slow doesn't fuck with how wavy this shit is, man.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but man, will I go through that gauntlet to do that 1 hour on stage? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good.
Bro, literally.
It's not a problem. But yeah, cool. So let's get into you, man. There's so much to get into. But before we let's start from the beginning, and we'll just lead the way off of that, because as Valiant says, it's the origin story of PAV. Like, let's go back. You've got what, over 20 years of like proper lyricism, MC, holding the craft to
performing, man. Just being an entertainer.
You know what I mean? Well, I love you as a writer as well. I'm very
Mhm.
specifically, I'm a bar dude. So like the fact that as
Yeah.
long as I've known you, you brought lyrics, and I'll get more into that and how that. But let's talk about your first experiences. Where did your music come from? Did you have parents who were into music? Were you the rebel kid finding hip hop? How did this all begin?
No, I'll tell you what it was, man. Like my mum grew up in San Francisco in the 70s, right? So
Bless.
Okay.
she grew basically, so she went like she was like a straight fucking rock and roll hard rock chick. Do you know what I'm saying? So
All right.
growing up, like our earliest memories of us getting in the car, her putting the music full blast and then driving really fast. So as kids, we were like, "Ah." You know, I think that adrenaline and her like passion for rock and roll music and just any music in general was what got us into it. You know, so I remember being in school when I was in like when I went to my new school when I was 5 years old, and I was like talking to the kids, and I was like, "So, who wants to be in my band? You're going to be the guitarist. You're going to be the drummer." You know, so it's kind of been in from the very beginning, and then obviously Michael Jackson. You know,
Oh
from
boy.
Oh,
the
okay.
Oh boy.
Michael Jackson in the 80s when you're a baby, and that's what you're seeing. You know, the end product that you're digesting is
We're all
fucking.
MJ.
You
I
know,
want to say everybody here is pretty much an MJ baby a little bit.
you
You
know
know
what
what I
I'm
mean?
saying? And that shit lasted how you know I mean that lasted a long time. It wasn't just it was like a it
Yeah.
was like he was it was like it was like a constant, and it just kept going and going and for
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
older than us, you know, like the good 15 years before us, it was just like
There's a
you
proper
know so
evolution.
even but you know, and I don't think there's ever been an artist who's kind of like even when he started as a child and everything that he went through, he still had like you know the previous 30-40 years of musical influence in the music he was making, and then he went
Yeah.
from where he was you know as a 6-7 year old with Jackson 5 all the way through to the 2000s, you know, so that's kind of like by the time the 80s had already come around, it's like he already had like 50 years of musical fucking prowess in him, and he was just finding himself, you know, so it's just
Right.
it's crazy, you know. So 80s breakdancing, Michael Jackson, and then obviously my mom was super into the hard rock heavy metal music, so giving us like Motley Crue tapes and Rat
Mm.
tapes and Poison and all of that stuff. And then soon after that, you know, seeing just the pop music that was around at the time was amazing. And then, you know, end of the 80s, it was like what
Was it the
MC
British
Hammer.
80s or was it just a straight out rollout of everything?
No, it was different because obviously we were in Dubai, right? So
Right.
it was. I'm glad it wasn't England because England was like England in the 80s for kids was whack, bro. Like it was not fun. You know what I mean? It was like fucking Maggie Thatcher, concrete
Right.
austerity living. You know, so and but whereas the States was different, man. It was like Speed Racer, Transformers,
Right.
you know, like
Right.
fucking tricks is for kids, you know, like cereals, you know, Toys R Us, mini golf, all of that
Color.
shit. So,
Like,
you know what I'm saying? It was just
Yeah.
like, you know, so for kids, so we kept going back there like, you know, once a year or twice a year, but my grandma was still living in San Francisco. So every month she used to send us a box of all the cartoons that she'd record off TV. So we were like super
Nice.
little Americanized kids. And my mom was only 20 when she had me. So she was like, she was a fucking kid too, you know? So that was cool. And then, yeah, so that was the journey with the music was like, you know, she got us into Michael Jackson, Prince, and all of our heavy metal and rock music. And then by the time we were a bit older and, you know, obviously MC Hammer, da 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 da. And then when I was about 10 years old, I think it was about 9 or 10 when I first heard NWA, Ice Cube, Two Live Crew. And that was like my friend's older brother who'd showed us. But like we'd already found
Exactly. It's always a
but
friend's older brother.
Yeah, so the thing is we'd already found because like my mom's best friend when she was in San Francisco worked at Sony Music. So we would be getting like every few months we get a box of all the promos. So we get all the brand new promos that were coming. So it was crazy. So like we had like all the cool cartoons and all of that stuff, and then sweets, and then we had, you know, the cool shoes, and then we had
Right.
all the music promos that started coming through. So we had like Public Enemy in like 88, 89 times, and then or just basically whatever the fuck was coming out, we had it. It would show up, like whether it was Alice in Chains or whether it was some weird electronic music. Then yeah, so then once we'd heard like Ice Cube, because that, you know, just as kids growing up in a relatively conservative place, suddenly hearing some fucking off the wall, you know, Ice Cube, Ice-T, NWA, and then especially Two Live Crew, because they were way off the wall, you know. It was like,
Yeah.
you know, so for me, like, I think my biggest early influences were probably Eazy-E and Two Live Crew, you know. So
Again.
those two things right there. And then obviously that's 1989, 90. And then we went to school in England when we were kids because the Gulf War broke out over here. And then so between me and my brothers, we started seeing like Kerrang magazine. So we kind of left off with my mom at like hard rock, like, you know, the hard rock music. And then we found like Sepultura and then Napalm Death and Deicide within a few weeks. So suddenly we were listening to like super, like, oh man, it's
Super
crazy
heavy
story.
music.
Yeah, super heavy music. So we were listening to that. So it was from the jump, it was like hardcore gangster rap music and death metal music. And those were the two things that were just kind of sending us crazy at the same time as kids, you know? So
Yeah,
just
man.
kind of, but then the beautiful thing about pop music, if you look at pop music in 91, 92, 93, that was like, what was in the charts? That was Portishead, that was Nirvana, that was fucking Pantera, AC/DC, whatever it was, man. You know, even like Pearl Jam or fucking De La Soul. Like it was like if your music was good and big and they could push it, it would get out there, you know? So that's kind of, that was the early induction to it. I mean, I didn't start rapping. So in the early days, like, because we were so into the metal and me and my brothers always wanted to be in a band, we were doing that. But I didn't start rapping until about 96, you know? Before that, I got into graffiti. So in about 94,
Right.
really got heavily into graffiti. So that was kind of like my first real understanding of
You had a
hip hop culture. Yeah, I had several, man. I had several ones. Yeah.
I had a few.
Yeah, so that was like that was my first kind of real understanding of hip hop culture was through the graffiti angle, you know. So understanding style, individuality, respect, disrespect, what the rules are, what's whack, what's dope, why things are dope, what, you know what I mean, and all of those kinds of things, you know, just basically everything to do with, like, you know, the elements of hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
And then soon, and then that, like, obviously we love rap music so much, and then I heard British rap music around then too. We'd heard jungle, but I heard mad, and what's even madder, I remember being about 10 years old and we were in Camden Market, and there was this guy just standing there with a little boombox selling tapes, like rave tapes, and it was like, it was before jungle. It was when it was like super hardcore-y, and it was just this crazy music that we started hearing about rave culture because there was ecstasy deaths in the newspaper and what's this rave thing. Anyway, so with my aunt walking down the street, and we bought two tapes. One was the Jumper Jack Frost tape, Jumper Jack Frost on Yaman Records, the Iceman Cometh, and it was another one. I can't remember who the other DJ was, but then that was the first kind of like time I bought something to do with the rave culture. But then soon after, like, I mean, I'll come back to that. But then in about 96, when I moved back to Dubai, I met this kid from San Diego and another friend of mine here. Because the uni we were in, we just fully stuck out. There was everybody else was just looking Zara, H&M, generic, and then we were just like, who the fuck is that? Who the fuck is that? And then we became friends, you know? So it was this kid. Yeah. So then it was, you know what I mean? It was like, you see, like those days, it was like.
Oh, you see fellow freaks,
you know,
and you're just like, hey.
Yeah, you're like, yo, you know. Yeah.
Know all about that.
Yeah, so this one kid was an Iranian Italian kid from San Diego who had to get out because he was just too much gangster shit that was going on. So his parents just took him out of the situation and put him over here. And we just used to kick it. And then one day I was just sitting with them and then they pulled out their lyrics and they started rapping. And I was like, whoa. I was like, but because they were really fucking good. That like blew my mind. Because, you know, we just all kind of freestyle and piss around. But then they hear like proper written bars constructed, sounded like it was on a track. At that point, I was like, all right, guys, yeah, it's nice. I'll see you guys later. Literally just ran home, started writing that day. I was like, my mind was blown. So that was about 90. Yeah, it was 96 when that happened. So we formed a little crew in Dubai, and then there was because everybody was having house parties and DJs, so we would just take a mic and then start rocking little shows. And
what was the name of that crew?
We're called SKA, S Clown Assassins.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta ask. I like when people try to skip over that part. Like, yeah, we had a crew. Anyway, so like, yeah, no, rat yourself out. Like, we all had terrible beginning rap.
Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
that's
No,
terrible. I had a bad one. I had a few bad ones. But good.
yeah, it's funny because like that was the extension of this like Crip set that he was in San Diego, and he was like, "Nah, this is what it's gonna be." Da, 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 da.
Right.
Anyway, so did that, and anyway, so we started writing and recording. And the way we used to record is a DJ would just loop up a track on a CDJ, and we would bounce between two tracks, record that to a tape, and then play the tape, and then three of us would be in the center with the mic, and it would just be like one person does the bar, everyone's doing the ad libs, mic in the middle for the hook, next guy gets the mic, so we'd have to like not fuck up. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're going under, you know. So
Bro, we used to make mixtapes for karaoke machines. There was no like beer and shit. Nah, you had to get it right the first time, or you had to start over.
Yeah. So that was a recording boot camp, and then yeah, it was like because I was in Dubai, then my brothers were still in England. They keep coming back, and they would bring all the new shit. So I heard like Mud Fam and heard like the new Roots Maneuver, Black Twang, and my friends, other friends started coming. And they started bringing all the jungle tapes, and it was the Roast tape pack. It was the Roast 5 tape pack. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I heard, you know, Stevie Hyper D, Skipper D, you know, Det, Shabba, Fearless, you know, the whole gang was on it. And it was the first time I heard.
Original crew.
Yeah, so like we had, you know, a couple of my friends had jungle records. We'd known what jungle music is since like, you know, since the early jungle records were coming out. But then never really immersed in it. But then from I heard the tapes, and then the tape packs, we'd be going out, we'd be in a taxi, and the tape would be playing, but it was like we were at a fucking rave, and it would just be getting crazy. Everybody would just be like raving the whole time. And then I think I was at uni, and I was just on too much ADD medicine at the time, and I was just literally living in a jungle rave in my head, like, oh fuck this. So that was like the next level for me to get back to England. So I had a bit more time here, so we started like throwing little jungle raves in Dubai, got a crew, started renting out sports halls, and then there was a couple of other older crews who were throwing raves. I was about 17 about this time, and there was two crews in Dubai. There was this crew called the Strike Crew. They were like a psytrance, you know, they were like older, kind of hippie but hardcore raving crew. So they would throw parties out in the desert. And there was this other crew, like an Ibiza kind of crew called the Fire Island Crew, who would like, they'd be flying out house DJs and drag queens and all of that stuff. So after going to their parties a few times, we started throwing on, we'd go to all of these other parties and start flying it. So we're like living this little rave culture in Dubai. And then, you know, just we would build we'd like get a sound system, build the lights, have security, set up a bar, and then just started throwing our own parties and making mixtapes. And then at that point, Dag and myself were like, right, we got to go to London. Got to go to London, start a record label. And yeah, that was the early days of before I moved to London.
Sheesh.
Like,
so that
96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
That's culture era.
That's crazy. Yeah. So when did you start up with Foreign Beggars? How much longer after that did that become a thing?
Okay, so can I smoke? Is that all right?
Yeah,
you can smoke whatever you want.
You're literally we're literally not in the same room. Yeah, it's fine.
Even if we were, I don't.
You can butcher a pig over there for all I care. I would rather
Jesus.
All right.
There,
so yeah, so basically, moved to London in '99 with the intention of becoming an MC and doing it for real. And then Dag moved in 2000. So since I started moving
before you go into that, was there anything that happened in between them that forced that? Because there are a lot of people who don't necessarily, who were kind of pushed into that thing, or had a circumstance where they tried to do something else first, or were you like, nah, fuck that, I want to rap forever?
Yeah, I mean, I've been into music our whole life, right? So we were always had this mission of like, you know, even when we were kids, when we were in a band, we were writing our music to go and record an album, you know? So the first time we went in the studio was 94 to record a demo. And then we would be writing our own tracks, writing our own original material. And then once I got the bug, really, it was like every day just falling in love with it more and more and more. And then here in the jungle, and then the rap scene in the UK was starting to blossom. And it was around the time when Raucous Records was just kicking off, and it was a beautiful time for all of it. You know what I mean? Company Flow had just come out. You know, like you know what I'm saying, the biggest album, and there was a point when like fucking Helter Skelter, like that album was the biggest album in the world at one point. You know what I'm saying? Like around that time, and that is like, you think about that, Sean P and Rock. I've got the most important rap album in the world. It was a special time. So like, very much so. Just kept falling in love with it more and more and more, and then so then when I found the jungle stuff, that was when addiction went to a new level, you know, because it's just something that we really wanted to do. We started doing it, and it was sounding good, you know. The tracks we were making, I felt confident it was something I could do, and it's just, I don't know, I was like 18, 19, and you fall in love with something that deep at that age. Woo. You know, like literally, bruv, like, as I say, man, since then, this pandemic is the first time I've actually taken a step back and like thought about a fucking 5-year plan in my life, or a 10-year plan. It's just been like, write this shit, put it out, tour, write this shit, you know what I mean? That's just that's all it's been for 20 years, you know. It's like, you know, but so I think once I kind of got the bug, started the mission, moved to London, started going on pirate radio, just started understanding how the whole scene works, and obviously getting there and actually being in the raves and meeting people. And then the hip hop scene was super beautiful at the time, you know, like in the UK, because you'd go out and you'd see like, you know, everybody was in the same room. It wasn't like some crazy, like, you know, it was at a different level in the States, you know what I'm saying? It was like, you know, everyone's out with their security and they have their own VIP sections. Everyone's in the club. It's an open mic kind of thing, you know.
I will say that about the UK is that you guys seem to keep the sanctity of hip hop longer than we did here. It was like almost like, even like not in a derogatory way. It's
Might
just,
be Europe in general in that.
Yeah,
sense.
it's like when we go over there, you hear the old school shit more than like that pure hip hop, like boom bap. All, you know what I mean? Like that stayed longer in Europe than it did over here. But anyway, continue.
I think it was a special time as well, because I think when I moved to London, that was like the kind of second golden era of the UK hip hop scene. You know what I mean? It was like everything was happening. Task Force was just starting to kick off. Roots Maneuver was coming out. Skinny Man was out and rampant. Mark B, Blade. You know, it was a special time. DJ Vadim was there, and just kind of have been a part of both of those scenes at the same time, because I went to school with Arnick from Dark Circle, and he was one of my best friends. So when I moved back, linked up with him. And then it was like every weekend there would be an open mic. So we'd get to go to the open mic, and then within a year, I'd probably met everybody in the scene, and it was like a proper community. It was good vibes. And then the jungle scene was harder though. Like our main intention when we moved to London was to start a drum and bass label, Dag and myself. So got there, we started throwing parties, and then started throwing parties at Dag's uni where we had like a budget, so we were able to book like Ed Rush, Optical, Andy C, DJ Rap, you know, all of them people. And then slowly, like, we started making our own music, and then Music House, cutting dub plates. None of the music we made actually was good enough yet, but the hip hop shit we were making was good to go first, because I think we've been doing that for so much longer, you know. So we kind of had it. And also drum and bass jungle, it's a different kind of like apprenticeship you got to put into that kind of production. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? It takes, it's a different thing. So that's not going to come in a year and a half of just trying to flex, you know? So, but yeah, so the drum and bass was like the hip hop stuff was ready. So 2001, 2002, we had our first 4 tracks, and we were trying to get that signed to loads of different labels, getting dicked around by everybody and their fucking dog. We even had a manager at the time. She was like, wanted to be our manager. And she said, okay. So that was about 6 or 7 months in. She was working for us, trying to get it signed. And then she calls me up, and it was like around Christmas time. So I was with my family, and she's like, yeah, I got you a 2 EP deal with Groove Attack. Groove Attack is a distribution company. It was based in Europe. Wow. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? So Groove Attack had all the ill hip hop records from the States, you know, coming straight out. You know what I'm saying? So Groove Attack was the one. So like, all right, cool, can I come out on Groove Attack? That means we got the German, we can start doing shows in Germany, France, all of this shit. So anyway, so that turned out to be complete bullshit. So like I was with my parents, I was with my family. It's like we got the deal, cracked the champagne, everything. Come back to London, find out it was complete bullshit. She hadn't even spoken to them, so I don't even know why she sent them.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like that.
Just
at
trying to
that
hype up
point,
your Christmas, man.
do you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know.
Have you
Anyway,
have you talked to that manager since that time period? I mean, no.
You
Never
know
seen
what?
her?
You know what? She did. Well, basically, she did some even more fucked up stuff. Like she,
Oh boy.
after I stopped dealing with her, my brother was dealing with her, and I was like, so. And anyways, like when she did that, I made her pay for I made her give me £1,000 for the first record. I said like, we're gonna pay for this and we're gonna put it out ourselves. So, did that, and then but my brother was still dealing with her because she said there was this other deal for him because he's a flamenco guitarist. He was still in school at the time, so she tells him that. Yeah, I think she said she was in Miami and she was like, I met Santana's people and I played them your music and he really loved your music.
Game's high every
Imagine
She
my
old
little
school with the game.
yeah. So she
I'm
was
gonna
like,
lie, I'm gonna lie big.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, I met Santana's people. So like, she was like, yeah, we only had 20 minutes. So like he was going from one place to another. So I was in his limo with him and then I played him the CD, Rare Tear. And then like, he's like, yeah, I really like it. I want to bring you on my US tour. Right. So the US tour is happening while his school year is on and his final A-level exams are on. But so we're trying to figure this out. How are we going to do this? He's not going to say no to a Santana tour. We're going to get him like studying on tour and shit.
Right.
And I just had a feeling, I was like, this is bullshit. So like she was over. So like my mom was over and then like, you know, we're trying to figure this out. And then she was in the room and I just couldn't take it because they were dealing with her without me. And I just had to call her out. I was like, literally I called her out on it. And that was the last time I ever seen her in my life. You know what I'm saying? You know,
And rightfully so.
She left and like she left my mom. My little bro with his broken heart, and it was like, all right, cool, that's it, done. Fuck out of here, you know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, so there was like loads of that kind of shit before we.
And now she's Santana's manager. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, they say fake it till you make it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
Carry on.
But that's the thing, like that's that kind of shit that happens in the music industry is weird because it's like, what are your intentions here? What are you going to pull off? Because it's like, if you could say you're going to do something and you have nothing, it's like you're just biding like your time to be in this room. But like the weird thing is, it's like you could already be in the room and be chilling and whatever. It's like, why? Yes, because the thing is, that shit happened to me again in the future, you know, with another person in the industry. And I was like, why are you lying and making this stuff up? It's like, this is only going to come crashing down on you like a fucking ton of bricks, you know, and you're actually fucking with people's lives here. So it's just really strange, man. But
it seems like that's generally what the music industry actually is.
Yeah, but I mean, you know,
Getting better.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I guess, but with the weird thing with this is because like, if you can't actually, or like, what are you leveraging that? I can understand like some weird like manager or A&R person trying to sign somebody or trying to do this thing so they could turn around to their label and say, I've got this, so they could get the money to do something. But having no other thing going on, it's like, I don't understand. It's like, what are you? Anyway, yeah. So coming back to the story. So like after getting all of that kind of bullshit, when we were ready to put our records out, we decided to just say, fuck it, and we're going to do it ourselves. So just got the info from the people around and then a few introductions. And actually I was at uni. I did like a sound production course for like 6 months and I didn't learn shit. But except I learned how to use a basic version of Pro Tools, which I still use today, which is good. And on the last day, there was this guy called Lee Codrington who came in, and he was working with the Delegates of Culture crew from Cambridge, like Inja's crew, basically. And he was handling their business side, so he set up a merch line for them, and he was like helping them press their records. And I just got him to break down exactly how you press records and how you start an independent label from zero. And he just broke off the knowledge for about 2 hours. That was the only thing. I was like, writing. writing, and I left that class, and I was like, all right, cool, dag, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. So that was kind of the OG blueprint to how we decided to get started with Foreign Beggars. And those first records that came out that were supposed to get signed to Groove Attack was Where Did the Sun Go?
Oh,
Yeah.
Right
it's a
on.
shame, bro. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
don't get me
mean,
wrong.
you know, it ended up all right. So
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I
But
mean?
you know what it is. You know, I think like that was before we'd even got started, man. But I think
Right.
it's important to go through that shit. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah, it
feel
is.
like you learn so much. You know what I'm saying? And the stakes aren't like that. Okay, you feel like the stakes are so high at that point. You know, but at the same time, it can't. And the stakes are high because you know things can get fucked up. But it's like it's how you bounce back from those situations, which is what has to happen. And like in the end of the day, the music industry is fucking crazy, bro. Like you all know that shit just changes every
second.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you be like,
no
wait,
matter how, you know what I'm saying? No matter how
it doesn't
big,
matter
like you
low or
base,
small. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It just gets
The
so
hustle is like as much as it is a hustle, it's also a game of knowledge and information.
yeah.
And a lot of people aren't so fast to let you know all the. Now you have to kind of find out the hard way in many
Yeah.
respects.
Oh,
Unless you're smart
it's
enough to come
coveted.
and you know
It's
what I mean?
coveted information.
Yeah.
There are people out there who will tell you the game, like, "Hey, man, there's a whole lot of stuff out here you need to know." And you're like, "All right, what is it?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you later." You're like,
Motherfuckers. And bro, I'll tell you what, England is even more cagey in that respect. You know what I'm saying? Because I say like
Yes, they are.
the hip hop scene was beautiful in terms of the community and everybody kicking it and ciphers everywhere and and a vibe. But as soon as it came to business, because it was such a small industry at the time, there was only a few people really doing business in the UK hip hop kind of circles, and they were like, nobody was trying to give you any kind of contacts or information or deep the game for you, no matter what, unless they were straight capitalizing off it, like you can see what happened with brain tax and all of that shit that went down. So, however, that's not entirely the case because there are other good people. Like, for example, like Natty from Defcon Records, he was the one that was like, yeah, we do this. This is how we roll. I mean, it comes down to the individuals, But then I have to big up Tommy Evans because Tommy Evans was when we were putting our first record out. He was the one who came. He was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna give you the blueprint of exactly how you put a record out, how you promo it. I'll give you my whole database of all the UK hip hop writers. So this is where you go get your promo CDs done. This is how you write a press release. You send it out to these motherfuckers with this time frame, and then you follow up. Like, he just peeped me on the promo game. So from that point, it was that's what got it started. And then there was this guy from the States called the One Shanti, who's a rapper from New York, this Indian kid who ended up going. He ended up going on tour with Run DMC when he was like 11. He won some competition. And he went on tour. Like, he's a Bengali kid. But he was like, because he'd been putting out records for quite a few years. So he gave me the knowledge of like, once you start releasing, you have to make sure that you've got another 12 ready to go within 3 months. That's going to be on the shelves. So, because like, if you do that, that's when you start your hype. So you've got something to follow it up. So it doesn't kind of go in kind of like, ups and downs. You kind of start building a trajectory. So those bits of knowledge for me were like definitely what enabled us to really kind of start a trajectory. Like, I mean, those are some of the most important bits of knowledge that I got starting a career as an independent artist, just having that. Like, now we all know you're going to have regular content coming up, but it was different for then, those times.
Much different.
There was someone posted it on their stories yesterday, and it was a picture of Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. And I forget who posted it, but it said, basically, don't be afraid to fall on your face because you won't be starting from scratch. You'll be starting from experience.
Absolutely.
And it was like one of the best quotes I've ever. I haven't read the Game of Thrones books, so I don't know if it came from him. Or
that's just a great piece of information. Period.
Man, I was like, that is a fucking killer quote right there.
There's a couple of people I've had that kind of conversation with as questions were asked, and there were these lash outs that happened after them. And I kind of just said, well, be happy you're asking the questions. You got to keep asking questions if you want to get better in, because you're not asking questions.
The game will teach you. The game will pretend like you're not supposed to ask those questions. The game will make you feel like you're supposed
right.
to feel bad for not asking those questions, and you learn over time. The more you have those uncomfortable conversations, the easier things become, or at least the better things become. They'll never get easier, but you know what I mean. But cool, Matt.
Like,
Like,
yeah, power's going to power. At the end of the day, power's still going to power. But
you know
it's,
what I mean?
it's what you take away take away the certain powers that are earned, not things that are like
Yeah.
being held against you in a way, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I see situations like because when Foreign Beggars was happening, I had another one of my close friends' crew. They've been signed to a label, and they hadn't put any. They put maybe 1 or 2 12s out, but they got signed to a really dope label. Now, the label ended up waiting about 2.5 years before their shit came out. So as early days in your career, do you know what I mean? So that like by the time the album came out, it was already a bit old, but
Yeah.
also because a big label was doing. Also, because a bigger label was doing it, they didn't get all the experience of doing the independent hustle and flexing and flexing and flexing. And by the time it came out, they already had like, once the label says, "Oh, we're going to do all of these things," like now if a label tells me they're going to do all of these things, or even, labels don't even say that. We have to go to a label and be like, "Are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do this?" And then we have to check up on them to see that they're actually doing it, But being a young naive artist in the game, having an independent label promise a whole bunch of things and expecting it to get done, and then they're not getting done and being heartbroken, but also in the process not knowing that you need to keep asking, what I mean? So I see like, I'm kind of lucky that whatever. I mean, I count my blessings in whatever way they come, So I feel like a lot of people who don't go through that independent hustle, who kind of get given or spoon-fed those things, will find them in situations where, because labels will labels can drop you, something doesn't work, something disbands. You're going to be on your own as an independent artist anyway, So yeah.
Yep. What was the origin of Foreign Beggars? Look, it's funny because when I saw you guys back then, and even when I was going back and listening to some tunes now, you guys like from the moment I remember seeing you to literally the last time I remember seeing you, the one thing I always harped on, I was like, man, these dudes are so unapologetically hip hop. I fucking love it. Like it's just
Yeah.
like you guys reminded you like it's like boot camp click was put inside of y'all and never left. And like it was just like everything you do just screams that real grimy like I listen to the beat sometimes I'm like, man, they don't make music like that no more. And then you do it. You know what I mean? It was just like that shit. I look back today and I was looking at like Frosted Perspex, you know what I'm saying? And like how that was shot, or even things are going far as contact. Like it never left. It's the same. Your lyricism has always come through as very bar heavy, very like whether it was political or not. Was that I asked this question because a lot of people don't know, and we're a bunch of MCs. But for the normal people, is that a focused effort to be that way, or did you just make sure that you stood on your
I
own?
mean, coming from the generation that we came from, right? Like, if you're coming out as a rapper, you have to have bars, you have to have flows, got to be patterns, you got to be doing some shit that nobody's ever heard before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd say from what 90, I'd say 93 through to even before that. Let's say 92, 93, all the way through to sometime in the 2000s when it changed. But you had to just come off the wall, bruv. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we grew up on MCs like Thurston Howell III and fucking Redman, fucking R.A. the Rugged, R.A. the Rugged Man and LP and Big Just. That is the school of, and even when Foreign Beggars first came out, like that was still the ethos. It was like you really had to be pushing boundaries as an artist and saying shit and doing shit that nobody else can do. That's how that's why we got recognition in the first place, because we didn't. Everybody was like, "Who the fuck are these guys now?" And that was the plan. And I don't know, like for Yeah, I think that's why Ebo used to get kind of like a bit annoyed when we were doing the electronic stuff a little bit later, because it was like we weren't really repping on that kind of cutting edge level. But I don't know, as MCs, like you really had to push the boundaries, and even with jungle, I think Stevie Hyper D, it's a completely different discipline. Do you know what I'm saying? But lyrically doing mad shit, Hyper D was obviously the stamina, energy, and all of that. But he was also chucking crazy fucking lyrics in there as well. You know, and I think you know, when in like I say like 96, 97, 98, as an art form, you know, rapping in terms of hip hop, but developed a lot more. You know, so I think the essence of being an MC, a lot of it, like we've brought that school of thought into everything that we've done as MCs, and I don't think we could not have done that. You know, like even if we're going to be doing grime, even if you listen to the way Ebo spits on grime, the way that he structures the bars and the word, you know, just his use of language and the patterns is different. You know,
Yeah,
like
Totally.
absolutely.
you know, it's just one of those things. Like, can we look at ourselves in the mirror as MCs if we're not pushing it? You know,
Respecting the
So
craft.
I want to actually touch on the evolution of the sound of Foreign Beggars, though, because I mean, you
Yeah.
did start in a very sort of traditionally boom bap tradition, and it really metamorphosized by the end of the group. So what kind of fueled that? Was it one of those things where you were feeling adventurous, or were you opportunists, or a combination of the two, or what kind of fueled the thought behind going into those directions?
A few different things. I think when we first came out, we came out as a rap group, and it was there was an era where you had to come out on vinyl, otherwise you didn't really exist as a rap group anyway. So
Right.
you know, coming out at that time, there was a very specific style of sound. I think by the time the second album came out, it was even Straight Point Agenda. It got a lot more synthy with the production, and it got a bit more electronic, but we hadn't fully gone into the, you know, I think we hadn't really listened to too much Dilla or Madlib before the second album. And I think by the time the second album came out, that was kind of the era where, I mean, we were listening to J-Lib, we were listening to just the whole Stones Throw movement was starting to happen, and then the off-key beat shit that was starting to happen as well, like the post-Dilla kind of, you know, that's, you know, when all of that kicked off. And I think you can hear that production in it. But by the time we came to Megatron, it was a conscious decision to get more electronic music and break out of hip hop a bit more. One of the reasons was that, like, when we were touring, we were playing a lot of, because even when Foreign Beggars first started doing shows, we wasn't only boom bap in the set, we would bring in the 140 and we'd bring in jungle and bring elements of underground UK music into the sets. And I think that's also something that set us apart, because we would turn a hip hop show into a rave. And I think that's kind of why our show kicked off a lot more than other people's as well. But it got to a point where we were like, why are we rapping on other people's 140 beats? You know, because we're taking this shit out and it's starting to pop. We should write some of our own. So that was the conscious decision to write more 140 stuff. In the beginning, you know, music was starting to pop off, and by the time we did Megatron, it was like 2008, 2009. It was a time where all the early dubstep stuff was happening. But I'd made that track called Hit That Gash, and that's the first proper outside of hip hop track that we made. And it was around the time that Jack Beats had come out, you know, it was that fidget house. It was that fidget house era, you know? So it was like Fake Blood, Jack Beats. It was kind of just before Ed Banger kicked off, you know? So that was kind of like this hot, weird kind of rave sound that was happening. So it was like Sinden and the Count, you know, Sinden and fucking Hervé and all of that kind of stuff that was going on. So kind of wanted to bring a bit of that energy into it, but then dubstep was also kicking off. So we got a couple of remixes that happened, and the remix popped off. So Prime Cuts did a remix of Hit That Gash, and that blew up because Scream and Benga were playing it, and then that tune just blew up. So then it was just selling. And then at that point, we decided, all right, cool, let's just get when we put our singles out, let's just get mad rave remixes of the tracks that we're doing. So the next one that we did was, I think the first single we put out off the Megatron album, I think it was Seven Figure Swagger. We had a Machine Drum remix on it, and we had a Bar 9 remix
Shout out
on
Machine
it.
Drum.
Yeah, man.
That
So
bar
that was
shit.
so 2008, and then basically the dubstep remix we were doing were popping off. So we said, fuck it, let's just make some originals as well. So that's kind of when all the electronic stuff kicked off. Actually, it was about 2007 and 8 that Noisia got in touch with us as well.
Right.
So I had lots of different people telling me that, yo, Noisia are trying to get in touch with you. And we started going over to Groningen to work on tracks for their Split the Atom album. And when we were there, we just got on so well. So we just started making a project. And even that track Contact, when it came out in 2009, we'd been sitting on that for 2.5 years as well, you know? So
The drum and bass
Contact, yeah. Actually, no, the drum and bass remix got made like in one day just before we had to hand the masters. So
That's the
as
stuff.
we were going to, it's that classic shit.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, so we were sitting on this shit for 2.5 years, and it was getting old. So we were like, we just want to put this out, because we were scheming on putting an album out from when we met each other. So just dropped that. It was around that time where so there was quite a few factors that kind of made us choose to go in the electronic music direction, because the dubstep remixes that we were doing were going crazy. Grime is fucking a beautiful thing by then. It was popping off. In our sets, we were playing drum and bass, we were playing grime, we were playing dubstep. And the way that we were rapping as well, like, you know, for us as MCs, UK MCs, Ebo was like a bit more classic on it. So me and James are a bit more like, oh, we should bring this in. And me having loved jungle, being involved in jungle for so long and watching the whole evolution of garage, grime was just omnipresent. So when we're gonna rap on 140 beats, it's grime flows that we're gonna be flipping, you know? So it's just a combination of all of those things at the same time. So if you listen to like Megatron and then Megatron remixed, like in terms of the electronic music that we're bringing in there, it's like weird fucking 140 dubstep. There's some future garage in there. Then there's some weird kind of electro house, because around then, that was when the Ed Banger shit was starting to pop off, and it was just post the Jack Beats, Sinden kind of fidget house era. There's obviously drum and bass, jungle, some really like deep, we got on unit remixes on there, goth trad remix. We had this track that we did with Darbury, Tad Mullinex from a couple of years back that we put on the album as well. So yeah, it was an amalgamation of all of those things. And I think also the tours that we were doing, we weren't doing a normal hip hop circuit anymore. We were in kind of like in the big leagues of doing shows now. So we were on stage, would be like, the shows would look like us and then Noom Generals and Andy C, or us and Chasing Status and Roscoe. That was the kind of circuit we were in. Just being around all of that shit popping off. Like, yeah, it was just, for me, I'm like, I'm greedy. I just want it all. I'm like, yeah.
And that's the funny thing I catch about you is, and we've joked about this before, we're very similar in that way. It's like, one, it's just like, I want to rap over everything. Like, I like, Ebro was sharpness. Like, he was like very on point, classic, whatever. No matter what the music was, he was going to be the same consistent rapper with his flow. Meanwhile, you know, we're trying to figure out the intricacies of every little hi-hat, and you know what I mean? Like, where can I put lyrics around this, and let me take this style of rap and yada. Like, that's what interests me in writing different styles of music. So it was always cool to see you guys morph like that. I never thought it was like, there was never a harsh turn with Foreign Beggars. It was just a natural evolution of things. By the time you guys got with Noisia, we were all like, of course. Like, you know what I mean? And especially the producer, for fuck's sake. Like, those guys are just...
Yeah, but did you...
A lot of people hated it. Sorry, man.
I was actually going to ask you about that.
We did get a lot of hate. We did get a lot of hate from, like, all the classic hip-hop heads who wanted to hear that, you know? Because a lot of them... Dude, that was also the era when, like, you know, there was hip-hop Nazis, man. They didn't want to hear anything else but hip-hop.
No, for sure. You talking to me, bro.
Used to be like
I lost friends.
Like, They're like, oh, it's whack, it's whack, it's whack. Everything was whack.
What is
so,
this shit?
And
It's
I
too
think,
fast.
yeah. So I think, you know, so it was by the time we got with like, you know, so we were doing the dubstep thing for a while, and then by the time we like after the Noisia stuff came out, that's when it was. When I think that was really timely for us because. You know, that was when dubstep was fully starting to go worldwide. The track isn't a dubstep track, but because it's got that heavy bass and it flips into the drum and bass tune, it's got the halftime kind of chorus. All the dubstep kids loved it. And obviously Noisia were massive at the time and we had everything that we'd done. So it was just poised. It was right for it to go the way that it did. But then after that, we did a couple of things. Like we had a single came out that went in the charts. And that was the thing that we did with Ministry of Sound, Bad Man Rhythm. And it was just something that was just like a side thing that we did, but they were like, this is going to be a top 10 thing. So people seeing that, you know, and also the dubstep tracks that we were doing kind of started to blow up a little bit bigger. So we did a track called Flux Pavilion. And then Flux Pavilion obviously went from 0 to superstar pretty quick. And then soon after that, we did the thing with Skrill. And we were on that first Skrillex EP. And that blew up, and that was a massive controversy where all the dubstep people started hating. Like, you know, that's when the dubstep kind of thing,
why do we have
the thing got split. Yeah, no, it's cool, but like, I mean, for me, like, I see it all from the inside, from behind. So, like, I think, you know, it is what it is. But it was a thing of like us stepping away from that real hip hop, and then also having a thing in the charts, and then also doing a thing with Skrill, which split the dubstep scene. So there's all of these like different factions and all of this shit. But at the same time, we were still making the weird rap music that we continued to make all the way through it. You know, we just happened to get a lot of visibility with quite a few of the electronic tracks that we've done. And then because of those tracks getting so big, we were suddenly getting booked on all the dubstep circuits, then got asked to come and do the Skrill tour in the States. But I think for us, every time we did a show, it was still a rap show, but we would be bringing those electronic beats, which were now our tunes as opposed to other people's rhythms into the show. So that was the general evolution, I say, into the electronic music side of things.
While those new releases though were obviously finding success, were you finding challenges as your audience was starting to turn over? Because now that you had people who were kind of like, all right, I'm not really with this shit, and they're jumping ship.
Yeah.
Did you find the same kind of thing with like promoters, with, you know, trying to maybe change how you sold your records, et cetera, et cetera? Like, what kind of challenges did that pose for you guys?
I think it was things were pretty good for us at that time because there was all of these new kind of markets opening up, and like once we'd done after the Megatron thing, we were working on the Noisia record, which was taking a long time. And then after the Skrill thing, and then Mousetrap wanted to sign an album from Noisia, and that was taking a lot longer. So we decided to just drop an EP on Mousetrap, and that EP turned into an album, which turned into the Uprising album. And just by announcing the fact that we were dropping an album on that label, which was one of the hottest labels in the game at the time because of just where Dead Mouse was and what Mousetrap was doing, just by doing that, our fees tripled, and then we were doing world tours regularly. This has been before we'd even put the album out. We booked like 70 shows or something like that off the back of it that year. But coming back to what you were saying about so by the time we get to 2000, and this is 2013, right? 2014. In terms of like, we did find it kind of hard. It got a bit weird in about 2013. Before that, it was all cool because, you know, we were doing UK hip hop shows, but then all the shows in the country, like, you know, if you're playing at Nottingham Stealth, there'll be like a UK hip hop room and a drum and bass room, and all the lineups were mixed, but we were kind of coming higher and higher in the lineups, and there were loads of places that we could go and play, and the festivals were kicking off. By the time it got to about 2013, 14, the dubstep scene had split quite a lot, and we kind of got a bit fatigued of playing on these pure dubstep lineups, so we didn't really want to do that, as we didn't feel you know what I mean? We kind of, at that point, we were like, we want to do some other shit now. So Actually, at that point, at that point we did the I Am Legion album, and then for the I Am Legion, so for that I Am Legion album, we went all out with that. So we ended up doing that independently with us and Vision, and it's the first time we decided, all right, cool, we're getting a tour bus. We're going to go do 17, 18, 19 cities all over Europe. We're going to take our own lighting rig, our own visuals rig. It was like old school rock and roll shit. You know what I mean? Like,
it's fucking dark. I watched that, man. It looked fucking cool.
Yeah, man. Bro, it was like a fucking dream, man. Do you know what I'm saying? So we did that. And then after that, it was a little bit, I think after that was when it got a little bit strange, because once we'd come there, because at that point in electronic or EDM music, by the level that we'd got to with those circuits, you know, it's either like, all right, cool, you start moving a bit, you go a bit Dylan Francis, you go a bit Calvin Harris, are you gonna do that and go that? But we, you know, like Ebo especially had no interest in going in that direction. So it was like, you know, so we kind of took a step back, and plus at that point, I felt like the music was getting it, because we'd just been writing and running for so long, we hadn't taken a break. So I felt like by the time we were writing new like 140 or dubstep records, it just felt like we were regurgitating the same shit. So we literally decided to take a break at that point and just kind of live. And I think there was about a year where we were trying to write and just nothing was coming out. We couldn't even be in the same room with each other and write shit. So we just had to like let it be for a while, you know. But
I always wonder that, and because, you know, with a lot of multi-genre artists, and watching someone like you who's taken that path from boom bap hip hop to electronic music, and that process of always doing something different and making sure you're not making the same album or being. What's tricky is being ahead of the curve at that point in time. It's like, how far ahead are you? And then when do you stop to take a look at it? And when you're so busy, and as much as you guys were, you're actually like re-educating your audience, not just your audience, but
it's like every time we do something, get a fan base, and we'd like leave them behind, be like, all right, cool, we're gonna do something over here. And we've done that about 3 or 4 times, you know, during our
Well, I was gonna say, Armanni, you hope that you're re-educating your audience.
Yeah.
You're talking to me, man. I'm fully aware of like.
I'm saying like in general, like you hope that you're going to. It doesn't work that way.
9 times
a lot of them are like, fuck that.
Yeah, like.
But also, people grow out shit. You know what I'm saying? When we started putting records out, it was like 2003. So people my age would have been 23 years old, right? So that's when people are doing shit. A lot of people start living regular lives at the time they turn 30. You know what I'm saying? So we've seen so many different groups of people coming and going, and then getting into like the popular electronic music, and then the audience gets hella younger. Suddenly we're a lot older, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, but it's actually cool. And I think
it's why they start calling people opportunists. It's like that's when the opportunists like, oh, you're just switching sounds because you're like, no.
But for us, it was never that. We always just did what the fuck we felt like doing. I remember when like the whole bottom was falling out of the big bro step sound, and you know, after our Scream saw that coming, and he was just doing his thing. But then, do you remember there was literally about 3 months where every single fucking bro step DJ was a deep house DJ suddenly. It was a deep house DJ. Remember that one? It was like, okay, cool. You change your t-shirt, you know, like, you know, change your t-shirt, comb your hair, playing deep house. You got a V-neck now, you know. But but then
that's when aliases started coming all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean, so I don't know, man. Kind of, we needed to regroup, and I think that's kind of because all of the stuff that we were doing that was on trend, we were just doing it naturally. So at that point, I mean, for me, like, I don't mind rapping on house records, but then suddenly to start, after all of that shit, to convince Ebo, yo, we should do a house record because they're going to play on the radio, he would have been like, this is done, I'm leaving, you know? So, yeah, so it's not really like, I mean, I can see like why people think, oh, you're on the bandwagon, but like, we were actually kind of slightly before the curve, you know, on all of that shit. But, yeah, so yeah, 2014, 2015, those are probably some of the hardest years that we had as Foreign Beggars, trying to figure stuff out. Because we're very different people as well, you know, like there's a lot of push and pull with, you know, all the stuff that came out as Foreign Beggars is like, I wouldn't say a compromise, but it's a balance between what we were happy to do, to what we're capable to do, how we wanted to represent ourselves. And there's a lot that comes with being in a group with, you know, two other people for X amount of years, you know? So Ebo definitely wanted to explore and do his solo thing for a while. And I think for me, I'm mad ADD, and the way that I can work is like, oh, I can be working on 3, 4, 5 different projects, different genres, different places at the same time. Whereas he kind of really wanted to go into an exploration of his sound and his energy as a solo artist, because he'd been in Foreign Beggars, but he didn't start it. And I think in the early days, like all the decisions that were being made, I would just make the decisions. And then later on, we figured out that there needs to be a balance here, because not everybody just wants to do what I want to do, kind of thing. So getting to a point where, like, you know, but then even though we made a lot of space for him to do his thing, because Foreign Beggars was so busy, he'd always kept getting called in to do our show. We got to do this video, we got to do this track, we got to go on this tour. So he didn't really feel like he got the time to fully immerse himself in his thing. So by the time we get to, so we did, after that 2016, 15, 16 was some super lull years. But then that's when I think the shows really started to drop off as well. So it was, you know, kind of super hard on the financials. And then we decided to do the Tutu Karma album. And that was, so we started that in about 2017 and finished it and put it out in 2018. And I think that was a really nice thing for us. But even then, I think because we'd taken that like time off, I think about 2014, 2015, that was around the time when Instagram and social media started to ramp up in a different way. Because before that, obviously we were in it from MySpace, 2006, 2000 MySpace till about 2008, 2009. And that's when Facebook really started to kick off Twitter.
Yeah.
So then bang, taking Facebook from 0 to 300,000. Basically it was just, you know what, I've been doing social media work from the beginning, but then by the time 2014, 15 came out, it was like, actually no, Instagram must have started flexing in 2010. I think, no, that was Twitter that we started in 2010. But it was about 2000. It was about but it was about 2012 when the Instagram came out, and it was like, what, another one?
Yeah.
So that's and I was like, we were slow on the whole Instagram thing. So that's why the Foreign Beggars numbers are relatively low in comparison on that. But again, like, Ebo is a very private person, you know, so balancing out like being this super public facing thing and also being private, but having a show face with all the social media, because that's how everything is kept alive now, was interesting, especially when we weren't really doing shit, you know. So 2016, 2017 were some pretty like low years, but at the same time, we all had to go through everything that we were going through to come back as artists again. So that break was a necessary one for us to be able to write the Tutu Karma album and bring that energy. And then coming out of the back of that, Ebo was like, I'm done now. I need my space. I want to do my project. But then again, it took a couple of years for him. And it was like, actually, no, it was after about a year later, it was about 2019. We made a plan. We were like, okay, this year we're just going to do 4 big crossover records that are going to go to radio and, you know, like big collabs. And then I had this idea to do this little EP with some friends of mine. And I was like, I'll do everything. You just put your verses on it. But then it was sounding so good. And I just said, this is coming together as an album. So there was a bit of push and pull about that. And Ebo was like, all right, cool. I'll tell you what, we'll do this. Let this be the last album. We'll tour it and then we'll call it a day. And that was when we decided that, you know, Foreign Beggars has kind of come to an end. Right. But I think what happened was like, when he told me that, I was like, all right, cool. But then when I put the phone down, I was like, no, fuck that. I want to keep doing this, like, because for me that was my everything, you know. So
Right.
thinking about it and just the way everything was kind of unfolding, I was like, you know what, actually, this seems like the right thing to do because, again, as an individual, I've never really pushed myself as a solo artist, so I've always been behind this because I get enough satisfaction, creative satisfaction from doing Foreign Beggars. But again, as an individual, as a rapper, if you look up Orifice Vulgatron, you don't really see too much about it anywhere, you know? So, and I kind of felt in later years, it was kind of, I felt like I was copping out a bit as opposed to really putting myself on the front line as a solo artist, you know? And I think that gave me the, like, kind of coming to terms with that, kind of actually coming to terms with how I want to do it because I was tripping because I could have done a boom bap thing, like a high focus boom bap thing. I could have done a grime thing, could have done a dubstep thing, could have done a commercial EDM thing, could have gone down the fucking track wave and got a face tat. I don't know what the fuck, you know, but I couldn't figure it out, right? So, but then when we went on Limelight show and he played a bunch of beats for us to freestyle on and they all had Indian samples in it, it just clicked in my head. I was like,
Hold on, wait. Before we get to that, hold on.
yeah.
So
Important shift. This is an important shift. So yeah, let's talk about that. And it must be said, two things. One, holding on to a group, especially from the era that we come. We're from the Wu-Tang era. We're from the Boot Camp Clip era. Having a rap group was the thing, and to be with a soul such as pure as Zero, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace. Like, I could see not wanting to let that go. You know what I'm saying?
No, man.
Totally like understandable, and at the same time pushing him to do his own thing as well. You know what I mean? Is also important. So, what were you going to say, Valiant?
well, I wanted to quickly, you know, the first thing I read about you when I was like, I should ask Pav to be on the show, was the little article about you in the Hindu from last year.
Oh yeah.
And you happen to mention that the article mentioned that like there was a lot of like there's a specific sort of lack of in your face attitude about the way you came lyrically, and you mentioned that it had to do a lot from where you lived at the time.
Yeah.
You specifically mentioned obviously Dubai, and then the fact that you didn't have an English passport when you were in London. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So explain what was happening there.
All right. So basically, Dubai is a relatively conservative place, and it's like I'm here because my family
rules
here.
too, from what I know.
You know what I mean? So it's like you can live your best life over here. You just have to not make too much noise, and you know what I mean. There's no like super subversive activity going on over here because if you don't like it, you can leave kind of situation. Kind of being here, and I'm not here on my own. I'm here as part of my family, etc. You know, if I go out and start making too much noise, it's not good for them, and it can actually fuck up their entire business, and they can be like, all right, get out of here. So, you know, we've been here for 50 years now, and we don't really have anywhere else to go in that respect. So you have to be a little bit careful with the society here.
Right.
Secondly, moving to England, and I was living there on like a tourist visa for most part in the beginning because I was in and out, and the rules were that you had to show that you were a famous artist in your country of residence to get an artist visa. This is the advice that I got from the lawyers. So I was kind of living this limbo life. So I was there on a tourist visa trying to get my career popping. But by the time it was popping enough for me to be an artist there, I couldn't show I was a famous artist in my country of residence because all my shit was in England. So I was just in this kind of catch-22 situation.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why I couldn't, you know, like, so that's why I couldn't really like, you know, couldn't sign to a label. It was always a bit like, couldn't get too big, couldn't speak out too much. So like, a lot of the political stuff, all the social commentary stuff, it's kind of like there's a lot of subtext and there's a lot of lyrics you have to listen to get it. So for me to come out and be like an Akala or be like Loki or Riz Ahmed to be that outspoken about things, I couldn't quite do it because I still have to go to the fucking embassy and apply for a visa to come to England, you know? So they used to be like, okay, no, you know? So it's the same thing when it comes to the States or wherever I need to go. I kind of have to like limit the things I talk about. But then coming to India now, it's a slightly different situation because everything in India has been super top down, super, censored, super whitewashed Bollywood, kind of like really clean and tidy, almost propagandist level of how people should behave.
Well, I was going to
But
say,
then,
like, it's currently a fairly right-wing nationalist
yeah,
like
I
government at
mean,
the
yeah.
moment.
So
So,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a sec. But in terms of entertainment, everything has to be super nice over there.
right.
But hip hop blowing up was the first thing that broke that mold. Like rap music breaking up, because like it was the break dancers who came through first, who really kind of elevated the culture, and then it was the advent of like, you know, everybody having a smartphone and everybody having internet, and suddenly all of these little rappers were starting to like, there was like a battle forum that was like, you text your battles in, so you would be battling people over text, and then soon it would open up, and then within a year it went to being like a fucking national phenomenon, and it was like the essence, it was the roots of hip hop. So it's like keeping it very real, lyricism, speaking your mind, speaking your truth. And now there's rap crews from all over India. If you look at all of the Indian rap channels now, you've got every other rapper's a fucking superstar level, you know, with million followers type of thing. But it started from like representing your hood, representing your, you know, where you're from. And it's the first time the whole classes, there's a big classism thing, there's a casteism thing.
Right.
All of that was subverted. It changed the whole entertainment industry spectrum. So it's not so nicey. It's kind of liberated a lot of people as well.
Well, yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, like, how does the caste system, if at all, play into the sort of burgeoning hip hop culture?
There's obviously different levels of privilege that people have in India, because like, I'll give you perspective. Like, this is not necessarily a caste thing. This is more of a class thing. But you can go in India, you can go and get a meal for like 1 cent, or you can go get a meal for 10 cents. You can get a meal for $1. You can get a meal for $10. You can get a meal for $100. It just depends where you go. Right. So even the poorer people, the less fortunate people in society, they can still live a life. They're just living slightly, going to different places and living a lot cheaper. Whereas in England, everybody still has to buy a Coke for £1. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So people can exist, but now with something happened that like everybody got free broadband internet because a new telecom company came in, and if you get their phone, it means you get unlimited broadband Wi-Fi. So that changed a lot for a lot of people. In terms of coming back to the caste system, it's just very deeply ingrained. And the further you go out into the rural areas, it's just straight, you know.
Well, clearly, but I mean, are there crews or groups or anything that happen to come from a certain caste, and then there's certain people?
Yeah.
No, I mean that are kind of like hands off with them because of it.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it introduces like politics like that.
But maybe people's families will be a certain way, but now with the internet, with the education, with access, and I think what it's done for the new generation is really broken all of those molds. I don't know if it's the same thing whether somebody can marry in their family because of their family's traditional values and all that bullshit. Right. But what it's done is like it's put everybody in an even playing field. It's like, how much do you care about this shit you're doing? You know, so like what is your passion for the art? And that's what's actually, you know, breaking the molds and kind of bringing all of these different groups and levels of society and people together, which is really fucking.
Is hip hop? Do you think the first cultural force that's sort of actually truly undermined the caste system since it became illegal?
It's the first one I could see. Do you know what I'm saying? Like like Bollywood hasn't done that. Everybody's looking as like fair and lovely and as white as possible, and they're like, that's, you know what I mean? That's what they're trying to do there. But in terms of like, yeah, it's definitely the first thing that's fucking broken the mold and given like this kind of mobility structure and opportunity structure for people, you know. And I think even with the way that music was viewed before, unless you're like a superstar, either you're a superstar or you're kind of viewed as like the side entertainment there, like the help, you know. So it's either one of those two things. But then the admiration for the superstars is so massive and crazy. But the fact that it's such a massive place now that you have all of these like hood superstars who've come out in the same way that like look at Lil Wayne, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not by any means the American dream looking motherfucker, but he has got his clout, his strength in numbers, you know what I'm saying? But that's what's happened in India with people like Divine or Nazi, people who've come from like the slums in Mumbai, and they've come through hip hop, and then they've become a fucking national phenomenon,
Right.
you know. So and
Pretty
there's
much
and
invite people
now
to the slums as well.
Divine's making tracks with Divine's made a track with Nas, and Nas invested in his Bollywood movie and all of that stuff. So it's like to go for that to happen within like 6 or 7 years of starting your rap career, and then suddenly like Nas is invested in making a Bollywood movie about it.
Yeah.
It's a different story, you know.
The
Like,
GOAT.
Shout out to hip hop.
yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely.
it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's nice. It's nice that it still exists in that like that purity. It's like the '80s, like, you know. It's that the essence of hip hop is so much. It's still that, and I think it's still present in, you know, rap music. It's kind of like there's loads of rappers I see who've got no connection to what hip hop really is these days.
Absolutely.
But if you take things like graffiti or breakdancing, you know, those things are still very, especially graffiti, I think it's very intrinsically linked to the source of it, you know?
Definitely. Well, I mean, that's a
We're
whole.
still
that's a
getting in
whole
trouble
layered
too as
conversation.
well. Yeah, we're still getting in trouble too, as
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, China has banned hip hop in certain cases or something like
Yeah.
that. So, you know, we're still causing an uproar for the truth and
Is-
creating curiosity.
yeah, man, it's beautiful.
And
It's
graffiti
beautiful.
itself, I love talking about graffiti.
It's
So,
powerful.
well, it's powerful, but it's also so intrinsically linked to us as humans, just as creatives. That
Yeah.
I mean, there's graffiti
Yeah.
that goes back thousands of years. So it's like, yeah, it's part of like the human DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so sick. The thing that's so sick about it, it's like it's again with hip hop. It's like you see graffiti, other people will just see it as trash, but if I see it, I can see the choice of tag the guy's got, where he's hit, his tag style. There's so much information in that,
So
which
much.
welcome. Like I could go to any city in the world, and if I see graph, I just instantly feel at home and welcome, knowing that there's like-minded people who are like actively out there, you know. So but whereas for other people, they will just see it. Oh, what's this?
Why are
mess?
these people
you know what I mean?
messing up these buildings?
You know, and that's what I said the other day. Is that's the beautiful thing about hip hop. For me, for example, me being a young kid in Dubai, 10 years old, and suddenly hearing X, Y, Z, and then for a lot of people, they'll be like, "Oh, this is what's this noise? What's this whatever?" But then
Right.
there's all of that coded information which is coming directly to my ear, and that's that shit. That's kind of that underground coded news source, you know, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, it's
Shout
the
out
information.
to the businesses and cities that embrace that culture and actually
Yeah.
Like Toronto.
turn these
Yeah,
artists
man.
to
Right, like Toronto.
pieces,
Yeah.
murals, and all that, man. Like once Philly embraced it and they took all these graffiti artists to actually make Philly one of the most muraled cities in America. It's a beautiful situation. Like
Yeah.
graffiti culture, one of the 5 elements is like you said, it's deeply embedded in hip hop and for good.
But it stays fighting against class, and I think that's what the
One
higher
time.
classes will always be mad about. You know,
Yeah.
R.I.P. of course to Five City. I mean, yeah, I'm right. Five, you know, the Spy in Queens and LIC.
Yeah.
You know, I took
5 points.
5 points. I said Five City. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I saying this wrong? But that's like, you know, Mirrors and those guys and Rachel, they were behind, you know, that spot felt like a universe. Like I shot the Network album cover was shot at 5 points, and just
Sick.
walking around it. And I did a music video as well at 5 points. And every time you would go, it would just feel like there was nothing better than this.
It's magic, isn't it?
And then there's a dude from Japan coming through to put a little spot on there or something. And then this dude's from Russia, and this dude's and it was to the point that it got so famous, if I can explain to everybody else listening, there were certain spots you couldn't go into because the graffiti was too good. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it was watched like watched by security to make sure now you can't come in. You know, that Biggie and all that, they ain't want you nowhere near that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that's hip hop though, man.
Yeah, man. And the thing about graffiti as well is that, like, the purity of it, because nobody needs to know what the motherfucker who put that tag up looks like, where they're from, what color they are, how old they are, what sex they are. It's just
You don't even really need to read the tag.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the style and it's just style and upness and how badass it is, and that's what it is, and that's like, you know, that's
Get
the
your name
beautiful
up.
thing about it.
Yeah.
Getting up, man. It's
Yeah.
I love it. Let's go deep into this new transition of you.
Yeah.
Because even that, since you started doing that, has also started to morph too and become extremely important in your message. Um, Not that
It's
you
highly intricate.
beginning, but
Yeah.
there are layers to it, and I'd like
Right.
to
Yeah.
get into that because a lot. As you sit in front of us now, I not gonna lie to you, I thought you were gonna show up in blue.
We weren't sure.
Shit,
We were like, is it gonna be blue?
I have not
I
seen
should
you
have.
one time in the last year in the way you're looking right now. I was like, yeah, this is the way it's
Yeah,
gonna go.
I should have. I should have done it. I should have done it.
No, I mean, hey, whatever. We here.
Yeah.
Explain that transformation.
I can't imagine how itchy that would have been though while you're doing the interview. So
It's
you
all
know what I
right
mean?
though.
Like,
Actually, it's
yeah.
all right though.
All right.
actually, man.
All right. Okay.
Bro,
We'll get into it.
girls,
Let's yeah.
girls and drag queens. They have to do that. They have to do that
On a regular-
all the
That's
time.
true.
You know what I mean?
All right.
It's work. You know, they
It's
live
definitely
like that every
work.
day.
And you didn't go an easy route either. Like it's full on. So
Bro, I took the piss out of it. It's like as in yeah. I mean, okay. So let me see. I'll start at the beginning. Because obviously we did it in the Contact video 11 years ago, and the point of that video, when it flipped into the drum and bass tune, we kind of turned into higher power versions of ourselves.
Right.
So Ebo went with the African god. I went with the Indian god, and then so again it came back to I was having that, when Ebo was very much in his wave of like, I want to do my solo shit, and this is before we decided Foreign Beggars was breaking up, and I was like, well, I want to do my solo shit, but then we went on DJ Limelight show to do a freestyle, Limelight and Candyman, shout out Limelight Candyman, and basically they sent us a bunch of beats and they all had Indian samples in it and they were banging. And the thing about it was they were all different tempos. One was like a 160 trappy kind of vibe. Another one was like just straight boom bap. Another one was a bit like 140. And then afterwards, that's when it clicked in my mind. I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Because that means I don't have to be constrained to a genre. I don't have to stick to boom bap. I don't have to stick to anything. I could do whatever I want, just as long as I have that, bring in the Indian aesthetic with the sound. And then I can flip all of my different styles on it. And then, so once that started clicking in my head, I was thinking about, because I rap in English and I've seen all of these guys who, like, for example, like Nuclear, who is basically, he's like the Indian equivalent of like Diplo or Skrillex. And we've known him since like 15 years, and then started his Nuclear project and seen that go from zero to fucking filling out stadiums and then doing US tours and all of that stuff, and seeing the whole shift in, I've seen the shift in like the last 10, 15 years with all the work that underground artists have been doing in the electronic music world, but then seeing a new generation of kids who are about 10 years younger than me, who are unapologetically Indian. So they don't have all of this trying to adhere to the UK, to the point where, like, I remember growing up and then people my age and older, there was this insecurity. So people would try put on a fake English accent or a fake American accent or hide their Indianness in some way. And it was that post-colonial self-hatred bullshit, So seeing a new generation of kids who are completely unapologetically Indian and doing their thing, whether it is fashion, art, music, drag, whatever the fuck it is. And that's really, really inspiring. And we'll get them progressing a lot with their music, putting things out, getting international recognition to a certain degree, and then actually changing the full landscape of how people view entertainment, this underground entertainment, and taking it mainstream was beautiful. And then to suddenly see like the rap kids that I knew doing the same thing, but then the cultural shift that happened with the rap stuff was fucking mind-blowing. And I never felt like I could have taken my music as an Indian rapper. I'm one of the first, like, there are quite a few out there, but I'm one of the first Indian rappers who's had like a career. I could have gone there anytime and done like, hey, it's me, I'm going to do a Bollywood thing, but it never resonated with me. Like, obviously, we're Foreign Beggars. I'm not trying to do some commercial whatever just to get fans, So, but this is the first time I kind of clocked that, I could just go be me, talk my shit. So having the Indian kind of thread through it, because I don't rap in Hindi, I rap in English, but having that element would make it a bit more relevant, you know. But then literally when it clicked in my head that I could just do this, I could bring back the blue, you know. When that clicked in my head, that's when it really started opening up, because then I was imagining, because we've always done the craziest videos, so I started imagining, actually saw, yeah, so I saw this video that the Levels crew, they were out in India, and my friends booked them for India, and then when they were there, Chunky, Fox, Black Josh, I think they did this little video with these guys called Bombay Art House, and I already decided I was going to do the Indian thing. So when I started seeing these videos, I was already imagining doing the videos out in India to give it like some kind of mad context. And then it just clicked in my head that I could do this blue. And then that's when everything started coming together. And then, so then with the music, with the appearance, with the fashion, fusing like the whole hip hop aesthetic, street aesthetic, like streetwear, hip hop, and then fusing the Hindu mythology shit, that's when everything just kind of opened up, because there's like a common string in the music, in the message, in the philosophy. I mean, the message came later, because obviously like dressing up as like an Indian god, as Krishna, Shiva, Vishnu, Kali, representing those things and understanding what, you know, it means to me. Right. I can't be talking just any old fucking Orifice Vulgatron trash on that. So it's kind of made me really delve into like the philosophies of things.
High-end challenges, right.
What the message is, and also kind of we found, I think this is something that we found later, because it's like, you know, the kind of, when Foreign Beggars started with, that was like the, you know, the 21, 22 wilding out, be weird as fuck, kind of left the center people. But then, you know, as those things develop and as you grow, it's weird with the MC thing, because there's this fantasy world and there's this like super real world. You bring them together, create this that's this kind of amalgamation of the two things, you know. So, but we kind of found that later, like, just because we can write these sci-fi trippy bars all day, but then we just didn't feel like they were connecting. So when it came to Tutu Karma album, that was our opportunity to really like speak our mind and get really real and be vulnerable and open and just speak our truths, you know, because that was even listening to loads of rappers that were coming out at the time. I could hear this. I couldn't even listen to some people because it just sounded like, you know, they weren't fucking putting their heart on the track.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, so that kind of brought us back together as a group, and then kind of that kind of gave me a rebirth as an MC at that point. So coming with this, where I found this thing that now, because with Foreign Beggars, like, I'd get the craziest ideas, I'd bring it to the table. If I was a little bit too excited, it would already be like, no. That's a dynamic that me and Ebo had already.
No, I get it.
Like, I'm just up for doing the wildest shit, but that means we're gonna have to do a whole bunch of crazy shit to get it done, right? So, so finding myself in this position when that clicked, and I was like, okay, cool. This is crazy. I'm gonna go to India, find the maddest locations, be blue, write these tracks, make these videos, just do some shit that nobody's ever done, because we live in like this we live in an Instagram kind of world now. I don't want to say it was purely for the gram.
Okay. And I don't mean to interrupt you there, but that is a huge thing. Like, for anybody who's watching your videos, as an artist, I went, fuck, man, I wish I lived there. Like it looked so crazy. Like, you know what I mean? And just like outside, you know what I mean? It's like, he just went down the street. Like, and it's just like, looking at it like, bro, like, you look like you live in this fantasy world. I was just like, man, these videos are fucking amazing.
You know, like,
that's just,
you know, I saw people say like, oh, my life's like a movie. It's like a movie. I was like, all right. Let me make this shit like a fucking movie now. Let me just make this whole thing look like crazy world, crazy dimension. And then just kind of having the excitement of that, and something I could really get my teeth stuck into, and just think about how I can, it was clear, you know, but I was a bit risky, because when I started speaking to people about it, they were like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, are there people that take like an attitude, like a sacrilegious reaction to it?
Yeah, I mean, but also at the same time, I know where I stand with everything. So I know what is disrespectful. But at the end of the day, it's a subjective thing in the end of the day. So
I was going to say, you know where you stand, but other people are like,
so Yeah, but again, that's up to them to process and have a discussion with me. However they want to have the discussion, I'm here for it. But before that, I really had to figure out, is this gonna blow up in my face? But I was too excited, and I already started rolling. I was like, all right, cool.
Like, fuck it.
Again, bro, it was like after everything I'd done with Foreign Beggars, and I figured out what I was gonna do here, and I started speaking to people, and they were like, yeah, we'll invest. Again, a situation where like I was waiting for this person to invest in me, and then they didn't invest for like 3-4 months, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna do it myself, because that's what we was done. So I went and shot all the videos out in India, paid for everything. Like we shot in 8 cities, we did 10 days of shooting, did that, got everything ready, had like loads of photos. So at that point I was like, all right, cool, I've got these joints. This is how I'm going to launch it. Took that to the labels, took that to distribution companies, showed them everything. And they were like, we didn't like, so I didn't get any kind of advance for it or anything. So I just dropped my whole life savings on it. But I don't know, it was just, I was just confident, and I was just like, no one else is doing this shit. And it's blowing my mind, and it's giving me life, same life that I had when I was 19 and I moved to London, you know? So
It's sick.
just getting immersed in it. And then, yeah, so I remember it was like coming up to, so we shot a bunch of stuff end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and then was waiting for the right time or the right deal. And then finally it was like 2020 kicked. We're like, all right, cool, we're going to drop it this year. 6th of March, dropped the first track, Karma, and then it was pandemic straight afterwards.
Yeah.
It's so good. But I mean, like, it's been kind of cool because obviously I had everything stacked up for this time anyway, you know? So, like, again, coming back to it, it was like the weirdest shit, because like I just come back in this like cycle where like, so I moved to London in 99 to be a rapper, do uni to be a rapper, and then we did this whole Foreign Beggars journey. Then at the end of it, I had to leave because Foreign Beggars was done, because I don't like the visa was done. So I moved back here to get my new shit popping, and I kind of found myself, bang, I'm back in the same house like 20 years later, trying to start a new rap career, figuring out how the fuck I'm gonna do this. But yeah, it was just a mad level of like weird synchronicity with everything.
I wanted to say, as far as the project is concerned, with the whole COVID situation, I think it may have been more of a perfect time, in a sense that the people that will pay attention are the people that want to hear that message music, that want to hear that those undertones and what it's about, and it kind of just grows them a little different about you. Whereas if everything was normal, everything was judged simply based on what the outside looks more than what the inside looks. And I think that was a proper investment in yourself on that stretch right there, because I've been stressing, as we all been stressing, that there's just so much talent in our field, in our, you know, all these junglist cats, and say some shit that's gonna have you, you know, people looking at you different, and then some dude like, oh, this MC can't shut his mouth, or this MC's doing too much, or he sounds annoying on the mic. Just give him something a little different to sort of kill some of that noise, and show your artistry.
You took that and ran with it.
But I haven't said that. With like what you're saying about jungle with the drum and bass MCs now, it's coming into the age, bro. Because like I think since there's been no raves, I think it was going in that direction anyway. But the MCs are starting to hear now what the MCs are doing. They're treating them like rap joints, and it sounds really good, because there's a deep and the ones that are coming across who have like a deep intrinsic understanding of the culture, because we've been in this jungle thing for 20 years or whatever. But like hearing what, like, obviously like Inja's just moved from hip hop, he just does jungle anywhere. Now there's yourself, you came in the game, then there's like Dusky or Degs or
Dusky is
DRS.
He's on everybody.
Look at like DRS has just been.
DRS is really the one.
Been the GOAT.
Really,
you know what I mean? He's just
for sure.
Been the GOAT, but then
trailblazing, absolutely.
You know, but then also the whole Manchester crew kind of bringing like the art of real. Because the thing is, all of them are so sick because they're all real rappers, and they're all real. And they're all real junglers, and they all come from they're all in the 140 culture as well. So, you know what I mean? Like everybody's grown in these cultures, you know? So like now what the MCs are, like, I've heard quite a few bits, like big up Diligent Fingers, Like
Daily
this is really the
Fingers.
time.
Oh, he's not happy to hear
Like,
that.
He's gonna be
I mean,
happy about
'cause-
that one.
As he should.
yeah, of course, big him up, man. Because also at the same
No,
time,
he's a friend. He's a good friend of ours. So like that's
Yeah, man.
you know I've been high on him for a long time.
yeah. So
So-
like if like there's because there was obviously emceeing in jungles taking a few different routes, right? So there was, I think in the beginning when it was like the fucking okay, there was when Stevie Hyper D was alive. That was I'd say that was one heyday, and that was really what I think that's what really blasted a lot of energy in the scene for the MCs to get
The
better
amount
and
of
better
power.
and better and better. You know, that kind of really gave everybody like the kickstart, and then him passing away, and then you know obviously after that, like bruv, like. It was crazy because there was so many years. It was literally the same 15 man you'd hear on every single tape pack, every single rave, and then you know, a couple of dudes would come in here and there. You know what I mean? Like, but I remember, like I said it, like fucking X-Man was. You know, I remember like 10 years after I heard X-Man, he got like best newcomer. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
Right.
do you
Yeah.
remember? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was there.
What is that? Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that's
You know what I mean? But like, okay, so then, but then
You
there
were
was
there.
a whole, there was a whole period when it split because there was like, I think in the beginning, I think the MCs were just as instrumental for busting that music worldwide as the
Musicians
DJs were,
producers.
because it was the tape packs that really brought that culture to the
Facts.
whole wider youth. So that it was the MCs, and then also because the MCs and the garage music, and then MCs on the radio, pirate station, garage MCs starting to flip, and that turning into grime. All of those things were a big proponent of like this music catapulting in, or like kind of hitting a new youth generation as opposed to slightly older people who were into electronic music, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
And not
but
just
then
that,
there was a
but
point-
even going through that evolution was important for the scene as well. For those who were holding on, the MC haters to speak, is the fact that they realized how much we valued the culture as well. As opposed to just
Yeah.
saying, because for a long time it was just like, oh, these guys are being opportunistic to jump on these beats. They don't do anything else. They just want to rap over whatever, yada, yada, yada. And then they learned, like, no, one, if you did your history, we were very much a part of the upbringing of the culture.
from
But
the
not
jump, yeah.
but these aspects, these MCs who are very lyrical, very bar heavy, have
Right.
a lot to say, respect the music as well, and we treated it as such. So now when we create drum and bass music, it hits different. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was a bit of a maturity going on as well.
Yeah, but I think there was I think there was a time like where, because I remember there were the DJs who were like, no MCs on my set, or don't
Right.
chat, or don't chat over, or like MCs would be like, don't chat over the mixes. I'm like, what, would you tell Hyper D not to chat over the mix? No, you would shut the fuck up and mix, bruv. Like, you know, but then, you know what I mean? So there was that whole thing of like, oh no, MC here, MC there, stop, turn my mic off. Like that whole thing, which kind of turned me off a bit. And I think they're kind of split
all of
because
us.
there was like you see, there's a whole breed of MCs who don't really have bars. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about GQ style. I'm talking about like, I mean, MCs who are just hosts. And I
Right.
see a lot
Host
of MCs who
MCs.
kind of have host MCs, which are very important. But I also see like the fact that loads of other MCs got marginalized who can host and rep. But there was a lot of MCs who kind of just like I'd say like slipstream MCs that kind of came into the game who were like. I mean, like, I don't know, I don't want to, you know, but I think
theme
like,
music
Oh, you should name them
had
all.
like some, nah, man, it's all good, it's all good, it's all good.
There's a like.
But having said that, but
Kidding.
I'm sorry.
yeah, but also, but at the same time, it is a different discipline to be able to hold a
1000.
rave. You know what I mean? To hold a rave without bars, that's not everybody can do that. You know, and
No.
also like read dynamics and work with DJs and stuff. But there was a long time, like, you know, let's say like, I don't want to go by years, but I think when, you know, like when the sound changed, when there was like a big commercialized kind of wall of sound thing that was going on, like, again, I don't want to name any DJs or producers or whatever, when it kind of got a bit,
We
no, I want to say, you know, it was slightly
Right,
like
we're
the
all for it.
gentrified vibe, do you know what I
Right.
mean? Whatever, you know,
1000%.
that was a fucking million and miles away from listening to fucking the tape packs and hearing Fearless and Shabba
Right.
going back to back. You know, there was a difference there. And I feel like there was that period where a lot of MCs weren't getting the respect of the ratings, but I think there was a whole different side of that culture which just kept going. Like, you know, people like Harry Shotter, big up Shotter for fucking
Big up,
Big
Sean.
up.
just just like, you know,
Thanks for wearing my shirt, Shada.
you know, yeah, like Skimmer, Shammer, all of those guys like are legends. They've always done their thing and they set the speed, so they're always going to be fine. But then Harry is a new generation of MCs who really fly that culture and treat it like an artist and a craft and a journey.
I
But
don't
again,
know
like
anybody
he's a
who
rapper.
writes more.
Then, remembers that shit, bro. Anyway,
yeah,
but like,
I fucking get it.
at
Yeah,
this stage as well. But again, like, the sick thing about Harry Shotter is that he's a rapper from the beginning as well.
Right.
You know, he's a rapper from before he's a MC, so he comes at it with that level of like, you know, like respect or whatever. But yeah, it's nice to see it come back to a place now where I started. Like, I was bugging like when I started hearing MCs from other countries. You know, like yourself. When I first heard you, I was tripping. I was like, "What? This guy's American?" And now it's dope. It was dope, man. Because the thing is, obviously, like there was a lot of disrespect for jungle MCs from the hip hop community,
especially from the American
you know what I'm
community.
saying?
Yeah, especially
you know, not even understanding what the, you know, that it's a different thing. It's not rapping. It's a different thing. You know, so yeah, man, it's nice. I think it's in a beautiful place, man. And I've started to hear a lot of fucking really amazing music like that is weighted. The MC isn't like a bonus on the track, it's a fucking song that the MC's doing,
and that's what we've
you know,
always pushed. It's like it's a song. It's not a thing. We're not a feature. It's not. We're not the smoke on the flyer. We're just as much artists as anybody else. You know, it was really cool watching you go through this transition, coming back to that, and seeing the stuff you're doing now, and then watching you do. Your live performances. I'll pull one up. I just watched today. Actually, sorry, I'm 2 months late, but I watched your live at the Dubai, and the fact that like there's no difference in that live performance than a fully shot and edited video. Like your crisp, your voice delivery, like just clean as fuck, bro. Like, you know, I've said this to you a million times. I've always hold your lyrics to a higher standard more than most. I just have to do that. There are certain MCs, you, Harry, these gentlemen, you're precise. And the fact when you can just step on a live stage and spit that like with no fucks given, like it needs to be noticed and talked about to the people who don't. From a rapper, I know what goes into that. You know what I'm saying? And, you fucking murdered that.
Just to add to that, I think one of the first times we met, I think the first time we met was Concrete Jungle somewhere. I think somebody was introducing us, and it was right around the time Foreign Beggars was about to do their thing, but I was caught up doing whatever. Yeah. But one of the more other times was when you came to Webster Hall. You and Ebo came to Webster Hall and did a show. And I remember at the time, you know, I'm still with the Notebook at this time, to be honest. I'm still like, well, I'm a hip hop guy. How am I going to make this make sense? And you guys kind of answered that question. Not only did you answer it, I thought you personified it in a level of how the genres are flipping and how it was just like you were giving the crowd everything. And I actually say that even more because I don't think America's ever seen a packed crowd for a vocal EDM group, so to speak.
Unfortunately,
Webster Hall was ripping that day.
That shit was crazy.
It was ripping that day. I was on the side like, yo, what is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, it actually goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like what's the difficulty to promote that to promoters, because we're actually going through that understanding here. We talked about it before of like we're known for one thing here, and when you try to blend the two, things get confusing. But then I watch you, like you'll have that performance at Webster Hall, you'll have that performance live at Dubai. Like what goes into that? Like, oh, matter of fact, not just what goes into that, but leading up to this performance in Dubai, was that different for you? Like,
yeah, I mean that was slightly different because that was slightly different because that was just me and a microphone, and I didn't want to go. And
for those who haven't seen it, go peep that shit immediately after
it was. I mean, it was recorded and filmed, and plus, you know, what I mean, I didn't have a hype band, so I wasn't too fit to be jumping around. So I said, let me just. Also, at the same time, like I wanted to do something which was really specific because I think one thing I haven't done too much is like just straight bars for people to see the bars, they get the whole experience, and there was no crowd there. So I didn't want to be like trying to emulate doing a fucking live show without
Which always
any
looks
energy
weird.
coming back, because it's always an energy exchange, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, so I did that. But in terms of like, coming back to your thing about how do we package this and how do we do it, whatever, because I think you need to differentiate between like, because a lot of the promoters, I think that you're thinking about, they're drum and bass promoters or they're hip hop promoters. I think we're lucky in England because there was all of this cross genre stuff that we were doing, and we treated the whole thing like a rap show, but we were able to bring all of these elements in the right way. So I think, you know, when people just drop a bit of drum and bass in a hip hop set, and you know, they can do it at the end as a novelty, but it wasn't a novelty for us. We actually integrated it into the part of the show. Like when I see the way that I put the show together is when I remember seeing Busta Rhymes in '99 in
Jesus
Long
Christ.
Island, bruv. And I remember like seeing, it was like there was Fabulous, the show was right.
Yeah.
The show was just whatever, and then it was Snoop Dogg, and he had a band, and he was doing a whole Snoop thing.
Right.
And then it was in Long Island. It was like the sea was behind it, and it was a sunset show. And then it was the 50 Cent tour, but the way Busta Rhymes came up, he came up hungry, like he still had something to prove. So it was him and Spliff, and like the sun went down during their set, and they just fucking murdered it. And if the way that they would flip, it wouldn't be like, oh, we do a song. So the way that they flipped it up, it was like they do some of a track, and then another track would drop, and they do a hook, and then, you know, it's like. But the way they built up the energy through the whole thing, and plus he's like comes from, Busta Rhymes is a sound system guy, you know.
Right,
so he
right.
comes from,
understands.
he comes from the sound system culture.
Yep.
So that just connected. I think subconsciously that's what connected for me. But the way that he had the place losing their fucking minds by the end of it, that was a big educational thing for me. And then a few other shows I'd seen, like Ty, or I've seen Skinny Man. Just like I think it's the understanding of like that, you know, that Jamaican dancehall culture, and how much you can turn up a place,
into the vibe,
how much you can kill a place. And obviously for me, it's like I'm listening to those tapes, I'm seeing MCs, I'm seeing them wild out, the drop comes, the whole place loses their shit, and it's a reload. That's the energy that I want to feel every time a new track drops, you know, in the set. So we tried to bring that into our hip hop show. But coming to what I think like MCs can do now, it's different, because obviously there's raves that need to run a certain way. So you need to, like what Degs does is kind of interesting, because he'll DJ and then he'll perform. I'm not a DJ, so I can't really do that. But I think the thing is to just structure the set and make sure, I think the thing is having music out that people can listen to. Like I'm not limited to genre, and I don't think any of us need to be limited to a genre. So, you know, by putting out different genres and stuff, it taps into different audiences, and those are the people who come to your show. So I think being able to put a show on, you know, and sell a place out as a headliner, you know, where you have your people coming to see you for exactly what you do, and you can play any genre, any style, but you build your show in a way. And I think by doing that, that's something that you could to then take to someone who's doing a drum and bass night, but you can fit into the night because you know how to work the show, but maybe make it a bit more drum and bass heavy show, but at the same time, it's still a showcase what you're doing. And I think maybe that's something that has been lacking for a long time with MCs in the jungle scene. Because,
that's what
you know, everybody
Canada Ninja do.
Yeah, so like they treat it like an actual show. Like for example, General Levy, that's what he's been doing. You know, so so you could take General Levy and he could do his whole set and play his reggae, and he could play whatever he's doing, but then still fuck up the dance like any other jungle DJ and MC would do. So I think being able to have a show that can exist in that kind of sphere, like you can't really take any old rap group and put them in a fucking dubstep party. It's not going to run.
Already.
You can do that with Foreign Beggars. You can't take a drum and you can't take a rap group and put them on in a drum and bass party. That's not going to run. But with
unless you're in Toronto,
all the knowledge, with all the knowledge and understanding that we have, the kind of sets that we can do, and in terms of taking people on a journey, because we've come out of this era of like genre-specific nights. You know, that died. I'd say, you know, it was about 2010 when everything kind of flipped up and people could do different genres at raves. So as long as
kind of had to
your show, so as long as you can actually bring like a proper showcase and take people on a journey, and you know, connect with them and have them lose their shit, then I think the way I see it is like your show should be able to stand up next to any other show on the planet, whether it's a rock band or a hip hop legend or a fucking electronic weird group from Berlin. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to come on stage after them and fuck them up.
There needs to be a small. I don't want to give away secrets because it's not really a secret, but it needs to be a small relation to said audience that's going to bring them in and reel them in and turn it into something special. So once you get to a certain point, then it becomes show off mode. And show off mode is the true you after you reel them in to what you sort of done. I mean,
even
we can talk about this. It's a science, so to speak, about it. But go ahead, Monty. Go ahead, brother.
No, I'm.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
No, I do have something to say. No, I just believe that multi-genre art is kind of the superpower, right? It's the fact that you're so modular. You put us in any setting, we're gonna be all right. You want me to be drum bass heavy? You want someone to be dubstep heavy? You can flip it. There's so much, especially when you've been working for so long. You can go in any direction. You know what I mean? You could start with one way. Like when I used to program shows, when I did a show at the Buckhead Saloon, I started off with my hip hop stuff and then morphed into some freestyles. And then at the end, you start to twist into this whole EDM set that's completely mixed like anything else. And it flips from house to dubstep to, you know what I mean? Like you got to program it the way you can, is just so you can include everything in it. And you talk to the party first, see what's on the lineup, see what's going where. And I don't understand.
And it's also
artists don't do that.
Yeah, also the reason why a lot of them can't or won't do it is because they don't come from these cultures the same way that you have. Do you know what I mean? Like you've grown in that. You know, anybody could drop like a novelty track here in the set or this and that, but then it's novelty. But it's like if you start playing, you decide which couple of jungle tunes are going to come on in your set, and you start doing what you do. That's a whole different level of ball game to some other MC, and then there's a jungle track that comes on in the set. You know what I mean? Like you're bringing the whole gravity of that culture to the situation, and that's the beautiful thing that connects, I think, as well. You know?
I mean, that's the happiness we have now. I think there's been a long-awaited moment for these genres, especially I guess from what I'm seeing with hip hop and its relation to everything that's electronic. People have been waiting for these kind of things to really mend into something.
Facts.
In some form. And, you know, it's a tricky world, as I say it, and it sounds so easy, but it's a tricky world because you want, I guess it's the idea of aiming to please or aiming to get the point across. And you got to, you can never be 100% sure that you do. Even if you did sometimes, you know what I mean?
Completely, man. Like it's always, but that's the beautiful thing, though. There's a lot of uncharted territory. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what keeps us young and adventurous, because like we're like on the fucking edge with it, you know. But I think, it was interesting what you said just now. But I think people have been waiting for things to change in hip hop as well. But I think not only musically or aesthetically, I think there's a lot of conversation which is needed to change as well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of, there's a lot of like the next level misogyny that's had to get out of it. There's a lot of the homophobia that's had to get dealt with. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of like shit to unpack. Like
still needs more dealing with. I mean,
there's things I've said on my first.
What do you call it? Idolization, right? Idolization. Idolism. I'll call it idolism. Only because we got to get it out of here. But
man. So like, there's a bunch of shit I said on my first album that I wouldn't. Once I kind of really.
For sure, we have grown for sure. I'm not. I say it all the time. Like there's recordings out there. Like. Fuck my brother.
But then once you understand the gravity of things and you can grow and learn from it. Hold on, that's my mom. 1 second, yeah.
There goes your
Monday.
There goes your moments later.
Valiant moment, yeah.
A few
10 minutes later.
So what have you got coming up next? What's I know you're like the thing I've worked on for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But
no, I've got some just more music, man. Like just waiting to I'm building a live show. I mean, I've got this dream of what the show is gonna look like. And it's like I want to take it there. Like, I want to really bring in everything I've learned over the last 20 years and the shows that we've done to give them something different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that Major Lazer show energy, but on the Indian flex with
That
our
Major Lazer
underground.
show.
You know what I'm saying? But like Major Lazer show with my aesthetic, but with the underground, with our UK dirty underground music, you know, fused with the Indian vibes. So that's kind of like the vision for it, you know.
Were you in charge of the vision of the last live shows you were doing with when you were, what was the name of the tour? God damn it, it just skipped my mind. The one we were talking about earlier. It was very dark.
The I Am Legion one.
The Legion.
That was actually everything to do with that project was a 5-person decision. Even like when it came to being in the studio, even they would like say shit about our bars, which was a bit like, what? All right, cool. So everybody, it's amazing. That's why it took a little bit longer, because everybody had an input about everything. But that was a vision that kind of came through collectively.
It was a cool
one of us. Like Ebo was the whole idea with the outfits and the fashion, and I think we all agreed on like the aesthetic of it, and then and then Noisia actually made all the visuals for it themselves, programmed those, and then we got Chris, who was the lighting guy for Fabric. Yeah, man. Yeah, so that was a group effort, that one.
Well, I'm looking forward to the future.
Sorry. So what I've got coming next is like my big focus right now is the label, the foreign currency label.
Yeah, you know, we didn't even talk about that.
I meant to even say, what's the meaning behind that? My bad. It's right here in my notes and everything.
Yeah, if you guys, if it's too long, then we don't have to talk about it, man.
No, we can.
This show's gone off.
We've had shows that were 4 hours long. So
Nasha, we do what we want. God damn it.
Cool. Yeah. So basically,
let me ask you. First of all, was foreign currency? Did that become the vehicle for your output initially, or was it a grander label that you had in mind from the beginning?
Yeah, again, it was something I just wanted to, it was a vehicle for me to put stuff out on, because there was no other vehicle. So I just kind of started it. And it's interesting because I couldn't figure out a name for myself for so long. Or I wanted to use my own name, but then Pavan's quite a common Indian name. So by the time, basically I finally figured out that if I put a 4 as the second A, it's Pavan, but then the 4N still throws back to Foreign Beggars. So it still has that connection. And then the label, we were thinking about it, and it was like, I just came, it was like, fuck it, Foreign Currency is the name of the label. And then
it's a good name.
Later on, I wouldn't have started, like, I didn't intend to really, it's been a dream and I want to have a label, but with all the work that I was trying to do as a solo project, because if we dropped that and then I started touring, there's no way I would have been able to start a label just yet. So I was cool with doing that later down the line once everything was rolling and moving. But being in the pandemic situation and then kind of having met so many incredible new Indian artists looking for beats, and also seeing so many of my like friends and people I respect. I was speaking to about 8 or 9 artists over the last few years and helping them get their shit together, but their stuff not really coming together, and they're not getting the recognition because they're not in the right country, and there isn't a scene for that where they are. Or they're really dope, but they don't necessarily have all of their numbers popping, so their music is just falling between the cracks, and it's just like killing me, because it's like, you're fucking like God level amazing. It's like, I don't deserve to be an artist next to what I feel your music is, you know? So being in a situation where I was sitting on about 8 or 9 different people's projects I was helping them with on my computer, and having discovered all of these incredible Indian artists, pandemic kicking in, and then being at home, and then people just wanting to work, I just said, fuck it, let me just see if I could start this label. And we were like, how can we do this with no money? Because obviously we're not doing any shows, everyone's sitting in with no shows, but this is possible to do. But if we want to do a label, I don't want to do a label that just kind of put something out and then nothing happens. So I was like, how are we going to be a prolific label? So I just took the same, it was literally the model that Monster Cat used when they came out. So they actually just, what they did when the post Skrillex dubstep thing popped off in the States, what they did was they just scoured SoundCloud for every single little kid who's making half decent dubstep, sign them, and they would just put a record out on a video. Like it was around the time when UKF was popping off, so they made YouTube was such a central place for those things. So they saw that model, and they were just 3 records a week. They would drop one on Monday, one on Wednesday, one on Friday. And then before that first year, they had 150 records out from kids from all over the country, and they just built this massive thing. So it's like, how can I apply that to this situation? Because to do something like that, to be running 8 to 10 release campaigns at the same time, you need to have a proper team. Because I'm not doing metadata, it's going to get fucked up. I'm not doing the accounts, it's going to get fucked up. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not doing, you know what I mean? So I just had to figure out, like, also me doing my project, the Vulgatron project, I was like, how can I do the label? So I just figured out, like, my strengths are, you know, getting people on board, connecting the dots, getting things sounding dope and looking dope. And then after that, thinking of a strategy. So I put a whole team together, and the team, the way that we work is that everybody works for a small percentage of the record. So we have an in-house press person, we have an in-house designer, we have an in-house social media person, we have an in-house label manager. So the whole squad is there. Everyone's kind of putting the work in now while we're all sitting at home flexing to build it. No one's getting paid, but as we grow and as we become, like, organically, you know, as we represent more and more music, like since August to now, we put out 62 records. Yeah. So if we keep going at this pace and growing and building the right way, it's like everyone's going to have their percentages. It's going to be counted for something. And, you know, it's a lot of hard work starting all your different starting X amount of social media platforms from zero. And a lot of the artists that we're working with, this is the first time they're releasing, or, you know, so we're building people up. But by doing this, like, regular prolific releases means that we can actually set out a year's release strategy for 10 different artists and still have space to sign new people and do all kinds of things. So that's the mission. It's fucking crazy, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in terms of, like, what am I doing? It's like, not as if my life wasn't complicated enough.
That is frequently when the best shit happens. So.
But, you know, it's one of those things, like, when I get something and, like, the vision clicks and I'm like, yeah, it starts running. But then again, as being older and having experience, it's easy to get into situations and be like, yeah, let's do all of this stuff. And then when you get there, you realize that there's all of this other stuff that you got to do for it to be running properly. So just understanding, you know, having run 2-3 labels in the past, having done deals with all of these different labels and understanding what it is. So we had, like, from April, we were having conversations from April, May through to August, when the first release was about, in terms of planning and organizing and structuring of how everything's going to run. So that's the kind of vision. And as I say, like, by doing this label, wow, what's up? By doing this label, it's like, and this new project, coming at it as an older person, is the first time I was actually able to really think about looking at my life as, you know, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what it's going to look like. Because before that was just 18-month plan to get the record out and do a tour. Right. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
what's the best way to contact you for a new artist or to check you out?
Just hit demos at 4ncurrency.com. That's the one. Follow up the Instagram at Foreign Currency, and all of our details are there. So just 4NC with the yen sign. So look it up, or just hit us up. Yeah, just hit us up on Instagram, or hit us up on the email, demos@foreigncurrency.com.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I need to speak to all of you guys, actually.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, I like how it got all quiet. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't ask for no reason.
This was
I'm a new artist
food right here, though.
Yeah, there's a whole unreleased music sitting around right now.
No, definitely hit me up, man, because basically we're actually ramping up the releases because we're starting a sub-label. Actually, this is where you're going to hear it first. Exclusive information. Yeah. So we're starting, like, because right now we're doing hip-hop, trap, grime, 140 spectrum, bit of house, techno, like future R&B, 160. But we're honing in and we're starting like a sub-label. I don't want to call it a sub-label. It's just like let's call it a sect. that is just dealing with.
That's
Like
that's
like
that's some
what-
MC
I
talk
like
right
that.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've been on
Yeah.
sub labels before.
Yeah.
All right, Joe.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're starting, we're starting this set called Dark Mode, and that's going to be for the 140 spectrum music and the drum and bass jungle stuff.
Ooh.
And bro,
nice.
there's some haters in the bag. Yeah.
Oh, shit. All right. Looking out
Yeah.
for that. Cool, man. I'm looking forward to all of this. Obviously,
Yeah, man.
we're super excited to have you on the show. I
So
don't
we're
know.
gonna play some tunes of his, huh?
Yeah, if you wanna.
Well, play something
Yeah.
now.
No, well, not now, but like after.
Okay, cool.
Technically
cool.
now, yeah, no, we've been. I'm surprised we didn't have you on before. It's shocked that I didn't fucking ask you. I'm glad V had the wherewithal to. How does it start? Clubhouse, whatever it is. The point is,
Yeah, Clubhouse. Yeah.
I need to jump in there. I don't know why I'm not in there.
My Android behind will never join you guys.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they're rolling it out for Android like real soon.
Or
I
you,
hope
can
so.
just,
Real soon.
or you can just be like me and come to the dark side, man. It's nice over here.
Oh, with this talk. This talk.
Trying to help you out, man. I fought it for a long time. Samsung owes me money. I promoted that damn phone so much, but I'm here now, and it's just better. I'm sorry. Get yourself a PlayStation. Just, you know what I mean. Just take off.
See, now we go.
Anyway.
What do you
Nah,
oh,
man.
static happened.
It's been too long, since we spoke. I'm glad you came on the show.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Yeah,
we'll
man.
speak after this. And is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, man, just big up, man. Fucking, I just can't wait to just be on the move again because it's like,
Soon.
Fuck word.
it's like I feel like I haven't seen my extended family. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
100
seeing
years.
everybody out on the road. It's like that feeling that
Yeah,
you
but
get like with all the other artists that you
those
see.
little random run into each other's and
Yeah, it's wicked.
Man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Last time I saw you, I damn near ran into your interview by mistake. I was laughing about that the other day. Like this dude's literally taking an interview. I'm like, yo, Pav. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. Where was that? Was that for that? Yeah.
It was at
The
what's
Hyper
those
D
guys?
thing.
Yeah, the Hyper D thing. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm out of here. My bad on this.
Well, hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We get this shit cracking soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we appreciate
Yeah,
you
man.
stopping by. And
Absolutely.
No, thanks for having me, man. It's been beautiful, man.
big
Look up to all of you guys.
big